get into this. Let's jump into this. Welcome back, everybody. Everybody that's been waiting, everybody that's finally ready for it. We are back with the Mute All Podcast, episode 3. It's been 3 weeks, 21 days, but we're finally here. We're ready to talk about some shit, and we're ready to jump into this. Today, I've got some guests for you guys. I'm bringing in Lucien, coach currently for Polar Ace B or Polar Ace Blue, however he wants to go about it, and Zoo, or Tanner Deegan, as some of you know him, as a former Golden Guardians Academy coach and current free agent coach, just kind of helping around where he can in the amateur scene as he looks for a job. But we've got everybody here. We're ready to jump into some things. We're ready to talk about a lot tonight. Gonna go over power rankings. Gonna go over, a bunch. What to look for in a brand. Maybe talk about, has the player kind of, drive died? Our amateur players a little bit more stuck up than they used to be. But we're gonna talk about all the things that people don't want to talk about, and it gives me the opportunity to talk about them and talk about others, and of course bring some banter and hopefully create a little bit of a competitive nature. But gentlemen, how are we?
Doing good.
Yeah?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zoo, I heard you had a rough night, though, overall.
Yeah.
So, but I'm happy both of you are here. Welcome aboard. First timers for both of you, so welcome. I appreciate it. Glad you guys are here to help me kind of lead this episode 3. It's been a long time, but new logo, back with some stuff, ready to talk about some stuff. Got drinks in hand. Water for you guys, obviously a little bit something different for me, but let's talk about it. Let's get into the first subject here. Something that, it's been going across Twitter, Discords, I don't know, wherever else you go, if you hang out in Skype still, if you're still part of 2000s, but power rankings seems to be the subject on everybody's mind right now. What the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and if there's this gap. So I guess, Lucien, let's start with you, man. Let's, instead of kind of getting a background, first of all, who are you? Where are you from? Give me something about you, and then, a little bit of your thoughts on these power rankings before we jump right into it.
All right. So, first of all, my name's Lucien, obviously. I've been an amateur for 3 years now. Worked on Team Exile as my first team, and then I kind of jumped around to some teams. Was in 2 OQs, and then I was on the DreamHack Montreal team for Wind and Rain that took first place. And then after that, I've come here to Polar Ace. I was the strategic and pick band coach when we won the first UPL, and then after that, I moved over to Polar Ace Blue, which from the sounds of it isn't going to be around anymore. So I'm going to be moving back over to Polar Ace White, and it'll be the strategic and pick band coach again for the upcoming season.
Boom. First leak drop, Polar Ace Blue. Doesn't sound like it's going to exist anymore, so we got to move into the main team. So, I don't know whether to say congrats or, welcome back to your spot, but Lucien back on that main team, it sounds like.
Wasn't much of a main in it wasn't much of a main and academy team. I think they were both equally good in skill. We were just waiting for a good tournament to show the team, and then had some issues getting into the TCS, and because of that, we couldn't show off.
Yeah, sorry, bud. You can't. Yeah, you can't win first and second. That's not fair to the rest of us.
They just didn't want to have it happen.
All right, and then so that's Lucien. So welcome aboard, and then to help me talk about power rankings as well, we got one of my favorite people, obviously, as he sits there, all quiet and ghost-like. But we got young Tanner Deegan on the board tonight. So Zoo, give us some background, man. What do you want the people to know about you?
What's up? I'm Tanner, for those who don't know. North American League of Legends head coach. Been professional for about 2 years now, and looks like I may hop out of that pretty soon, but currently teamless right now. Speaking with a couple teams, but not entirely sure where the future is taking me. But for a bit of my past, I worked with Golden Guardians this year as a LCS assistant coach for a bit, and then for an academy head coach for a majority of the year. But before that, I was with United, and then spent time with MLGB with Simon, having time over there, and then did Tempo Storm as well. And then, amateur is a bit close to my heart. Came from amateur before going to Tempo Storm and United, so doing open qualifiers, like Lucien said, had a couple high-rated teams in that. Did some challenger 5v5 coaching, all that stuff. So. I kind of come from the amateur pool, and then kind of just went from there.
Yeah.
And now I may be back temporarily.
Yeah, that pretty extensive background. But yeah, let me go ahead. I'll turn everybody up for you guys. Go ahead and turn up the volume too, so that way you can hear these quiet guys. IRL, they're really shy. That's what it is. But
yeah, shy.
Yeah, with every
that's what it is.
Yeah, with everybody So everyone's got an extensive background, minus me. I mean, everybody knows where I'm coming from, just that Supernova big ego brand owner. So, but let's talk about the thing that everyone's been talking about. I've been seeing it on Twitter like the entire week, and I'm honestly at this point fed up of seeing it. I thought I was going to be, more fed up with the to be honest post, and holy shit, I'm glad that's fucking over.
Those
but
needed.
yeah, those needed to stop immediately. I'm sorry, but like, I think I muted 15 people because I just couldn't handle it anymore.
Yeah, same.
So, but now it seems to be the new wave is talking about amateur power rankings, and that comes up, I mean, once, twice a year, and like, who's number one, who's number two, and, now we're talking about there's this fucking gap. So let's talk about this, and if I started, people are gonna be like, yo, T-Comb's got an ego. Of course he's gonna put Supernova on top, but I think, this time around we'll start with Lucien, because you're coming from Polar Race, so what do you think about these power rankings, man? Are they something that we should even bother having in the amateur scene? Are people accurate in what they're saying, where it goes 1, 2 gap, 1, 2, 3, 4 gap? What do you think about these power rankings, and do you have a power ranking list of your own?
I think there's no real reason for these guys to be doing power rankings. Like, most of the people doing power rankings, it's just like, they don't even want to come down a decisive Polar Aces 1 or Supernovas 1. They're like, yeah, Polar Ace and Supernova are 1 and 2, and then we'll actually do the rest of the pack. It's like, first of all, if you're going to do it, just label out who you actually think is 1, 2, 3, and whatever it may be. And second of all, if you're not number 1 or 2, like, keep focusing on your team and trying to get them to 1 and 2. Like, you shouldn't be worrying about what we're doing over here. You should be worrying about how to improve what's going on.
Why you're not 1 and 2, right?
Yeah.
Like, why the rest of us are 1 and 2? Why you're worried about us? Like, why is your team 5, 6, and 7? Stop making a
Exactly.
power ranking and get to the top. No, I agree with that. Now, Lucien, do you think that this is a lot of these people are basing their power rankings off of the achievements? Do you think that they put Polar Ace at the top because of TCS? Do you think people actually give a shit about the players and they're basing it off of players? Or do you think people just make lists off of what they see on Twitter?
I don't know what they're doing. Like, straight up, so I think, in either way you put it, I think Polar Ace is 1. I think we've put up the performance this year. Everyone was like, oh, but they did poorly at Alienware. Well, right after Alienware, we 3-1 to ASIO in the Upsurge semifinals, and then 3-0 Supernova in the finals. We're still 6-0 in Upsurge finals. We're still undefeated in the regular season of Upsurge. So, like, I don't know. If that's the case, then we're still winning. We're still doing what we need to do and getting our job done. Like, I think Supernova is guaranteed second. And then after that, if you're talking about, like, through the year, like, I mean, then it gets to whatever you want to make it. Because I've seen people say, oh, this counts the whole year, and if it counts the whole year, then, like, Zenith's third, right? Guaranteed Zenith's third. But if you do it currently, then ASIO's third. So,
Right.
it depends on what people are looking for. And, like,
Yeah.
It depends on what they want out of their power ranking, I guess, but I mean, it's up to them.
Yeah, fair enough. And I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, we have rosters that don't even exist anymore, right? Like, we have no idea what the fuck ASIO, however you want to pronounce it. We don't even know what the fuck they're doing, right? Like, as far as Alienware goes, for better or worse, for me seeing it firsthand, like, it was kind of a blowout, only taking 1 game off of SN, making the change to allow for to hopefully come back and take a first, not even being able to do but take 1 game off. And if you're gonna sit there and be like, hey, they took a game off of Polar Ace, they can 100% win this thing, and then not to show up, like, again, we have no idea what the fuck ASIO is doing. Zenith, they haven't had a roster since, I mean, they were LAN champions at Indiana for the Player 1 event, like LAN champions with Niles. Suddenly Niles is gone. The rest of the team's not able to uphold the weight. Now Dragon Min Kim's at Polar Ace. So, if we're doing power rankings off of current, like, you're doing power rankings off of 2 teams that pretty much don't exist right now. And that's kind of the thing, right? Like, we're in that low. But with that being said, and me kind of only being able to see it from my point of view, Zoo, you're kind of the outlier. Now, granted, a lot of people are going to be like, yo, Zoo coached SN. Zoo's helped players from SN. He's going to be SN. But using your best ability, all right, what is your outside perspective of it? Do you think these power rankings are worth it? Do you think that people just approach you so poorly? Like, as a person that has been to pro, what are your thoughts on amateur power rankings?
Well, first things first, like, there could be a bit of bias because, like, I've coached your teams and stuff in the past, but, like, at the same time, I also coached Winter, I coached Jurassic, I coached Julian, like, I coached 60% of Polar Ace's roster in the past, and, like, not trying to take away credit or anything, it's just, like, those, like, I'm genuinely like invested in those players' futures. Like those are players I absolutely believe in. And like those are players like I meme Jurassic a little bit, but like honestly, like Clarence is the greatest kid ever or greatest guy. Like he handles his shit. And you know, like I want like all players to succeed, and that's kind of the whole point. And that kind of ties into the second point where it's like amateur is just you come to amateur to develop yourself and get to a pro team or get to a collegiate team. Like, why are you judging who's the best at it? Like, the best is whoever fucking goes pro, right? Like, I
Right.
don't give a shit about power rankings. Like, you know, it's. I was kind of saying it to a couple kids recently, but, um, you know, there's like this misunderstanding of what amateur actually is. Like, amateur is just like it's pure training grounds, and like for people to come in and be able to monetize it and be able to market it and be able to create something entertaining out of it, I think is really sick. But and it's like it's really cool for our industry. But at the same time, like those are accessories. Um like those things are just bonuses of like being an amateur. Like amateur is legitimately about getting those in-house scrims every day, or like playing pickups, or like competing against each other for solo queue ladder ranking, or like going over one-on-one stuff with your coach, or like just hitting scrims 5 times a week. Like those are the things that actually matter. And I feel like this new wave of like who's better, who's not, is starting to take away from that a little bit. But as long as the training actually exists, um, I believe both of them can kind of live in harmony. You know, like training power rankings or like training entertainment. Because I consider like all of it just like entertainment, right?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like super entertaining for me to watch. I love watching like UPL and shit like that. Honestly, it's super fun. Um, but you know, you just gotta make sure you're not taking away from like the actual point of it. And I feel like amateur is like slowly started to move away from like actual just pure like training and coaching and like players improving and like players caring about just improving to go pro. But it seems a lot more of like a business now, and
Right. And we don't. Yeah.
sometimes helps, sometimes hurts.
Right, and that's the thing, right? Like amateur, they're like, oh no, fuck the franchise. They prevent teams now from like we don't have open qualifiers anymore. It's all about the
Mhm.
scouting grounds, and like Zeus said, right? Like it's all about it's how your players within your brand move themselves forward, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, like we all know, you know, Lucien knows, Zoo knows, who's been in the interview process. Like none of these guys are gonna turn around and be like, oh yeah, I played for the number one power rank team in amateur. So, you know, basically you want to add that to my resume because I'm pretty much
Yeah,
going to be your
doesn't
best
matter.
pickup. Right. It doesn't matter, right? At the end of the day, like, no one's going to go back and be like, oh, yeah, you know, I won TCS with Polar Ace. Like, I'm the best bet for your academy team. Because people are going to be like, okay, but who the fuck was in TCS? Like, Metaphor, Fake God? Okay. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A couple of players we know, but it's not LCS. Like, have you
Those are
played
good
against?
things to get your foot in the door.
Right.
Like those are good things to like actually measure out player skill and stuff. Like it's not just like, hey, take my word for it, 100,000 people watch me play like on stream. Like here's the VOD. Like you can just look at the VOD and see for yourself
Right.
if I'm any good. It's not like oh, because I won this tournament I'm good, but it's like I've won this tournament, I have some sort of publicity. Here's the VODs. Like you can just look for yourself. And it's like tournaments are. I still think tournaments are like good ways to get into professional play. Like I think like doing like the DreamHack stuff definitely got me a bit of looks from people. Doing TCS got me a bit of looks from people last year. I'm sure it'll do the same for you guys this year with TCS, and like you know Polar Ace did a really good job, and SN had like the highest viewership numbers or something like that
Right.
too.
Yeah.
So
On
like
day
it's
two.
just
Yeah.
beneficial. It's beneficial overall, right? But um, yeah.
And that's the thing,
Oh, I
right?
never really gave my power ranking, by the way.
Oh
I
no,
just
don't
think.
worry. We're gonna get into it. I'm gonna let everybody
Okay,
give
okay,
their
okay,
list. Don't
okay.
worry. So what I was gonna ask though is like, do you guys think that this power rankings that they hurt brands and teams that are looking for players more than they help? Right? Like something with power rankings is like, you know, people start to list 1 and 2, and like a lot of the lists that we've seen and a lot of people have posted are, like Lucien said, they've been Polar Race 1, Supernova 2, or vice versa, or however people have seen it. Then everybody's post, it's some way or another has like this gap where they literally write dash gap dash, and then it's 3, 4, 5, 6. Do you think between the two of you, and Lucien, we'll start with you, do you think that these rankings hurt the other brands like Vireo, Zenith, Azio? As a player looking for a team, a player of a skill set that's in Challenger, do you look at these power rankings and go, oh shit, I don't think I want to, when it comes time for Zenith Open tryouts or, Vireo Open tryouts or whatever else comes up, like I don't want to really play for those orgs because everyone's saying that they're bottom of the pack. Do you guys think that power rankings hurt more than they help? And that's something that I've kind of looked at is like, as a player, do you walk up and you go, oh shit, 4th place team, nah, I can't play for you, bro. Like if you're not 1 or 2, like, nah, count me out. So Lucien, let's start with you. Do you think that's something that players look at and go, yeah, this isn't a brand I want to play for because they're bottom of the pack?
I mean, I think it depends on the player's mentality. Like, if it's a Kevin Durant mentality player, that's be like, nah, I'm only playing for 1 and 2. I'm only joining with good players. But if it's the other guys, like, nah, I'll take that 4th place team to 1st place. Like, it's not like these power rankings are saying like, oh, this org is bad or these guys are bad. Like, if anyone's actually watching amateur and trying to get in, then they'll be like, all right, like, Polaris and Supernova are at the top of everyone's standings because they're filled with scouting grounds and academy players.
Right.
Of course they're going to be at the top of the standings. Like that's how people would look at it if they're actually watching amateur. Like, if you're trying to get into it, you should watch it first to see, and then look for the teams where you could actually fit in.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a really solid mid laner, you probably shouldn't be looking at Polaris or Supernova because we're pretty happy with our mid laners on both teams.
Hey, ain't that a damn fact? Ain't that a
Exactly.
fucking damn fact?
So, like, you should look for the teams like, hey, this team's got a weakness right here, and they're like the 3rd best team or the 4th best team. I can slot in there and make them a better team. Like, I think it's still, like, a possible thing. Like, it's still a good thing.
Right. And I mean, again, like you said, like that's what teams. So Zoo, kind of passing it off to you, somebody that again has interviewed players. Do you think that now that you've kind of had to lay back a little bit and hang out in amateur again for a little while, do you think that other brands like Vireo, Zenith, brands that you kind of know players from coming from, do you think it's hurting these brands by posting these power rankings the way that people are?
Yeah, kind of, a little bit. Like, I don't think it hurts because it's a power ranking. I think like some of these not as successful teams recently on paper are like letting it affect themselves, where like you can, if you have like a decent like GM or a guy who owns an org or whatever, and he's got like a decent head on his shoulders and he doesn't care about himself, he only cares about the players, and you have like one person, one coach, one analyst that has at least somewhat of a semblance of like curriculum and game plan, and can like is just enough to get the players from like one level to like the next level. It doesn't necessarily have to be a high level, but just like the next one. Then I think that's relatively attractive enough for most people. It's like 90% amateur, you're not really making any money, so like you have to replace that currency with another form of currency. Like, it's just like any sort of social chain, and usually when it comes to amateur, it's like relationships. It's like you tend to go with your friends more, you tend to go with the people you hit it off more with, right? Like, it's like there were times where there's times where like I'd happily like sit in and help a team who is like consisting of a whole group of my friends, as opposed to like go get paid $50 to coach a bunch of randoms.
Right.
Like it's just more enjoyable at this level. So I think like to an extent there are certain players that will only go to like top 4, top 5 teams.
Right.
But like those players are probably not going to go to the next level anyway, because they're basing their amateur experience off of like the strength of a team instead of themselves. But like, I mean, some of these orgs, it's just like they're not really sustainable to begin with. So like, does it hurt? Yeah, but at the same time, I don't know. They probably like it's probably like putting someone out of their misery to begin with.
Right.
But like,
Hey, you
that,
heard
that
it.
only applies for a couple
Hey, you heard it here first, right? Just because you're on a top 4 team doesn't mean you're not shit. That's quoted from, Tanner Zoo Deegan. So just because you're
Well,
on a top 4 team.
I think everyone's shit, to be honest, including myself. I mean, that's like why I'm not on a team right now, dude. Like, let's be realistic. Like, they're importing Gorilla to Europe and shit like that. It's like, where's Tanner Deegan gonna go? It's
Right. No, and
probably
that's
the
fair,
fuck
right?
home, dude.
Hey,
Like,
hey, look, you're in the best
you
spot,
gotta
right?
prove yourself, and just because you're like on a good team in amateur or on your bad team in amateur doesn't mean you're bad or doesn't mean you're good. It's just like you just need to prove yourself every fucking day you show up to play League, and it's like, eventually you show up and you try your hardest, and there's still gonna be people that are better than you, and
Right.
you just gotta like keep grinding. The power rankings don't
Right.
matter.
Right. So good or bad, brand or not, whether you're with SN, Polar Ace, or anything below that, it's all about how you show up. Both coaches have said it. So those of you in the chat that don't have a team yet, it's not about where you go. It's about how you show up when it counts. But let's get into the fun part here, right? Because it's something that people have been talking about. We'll start with Zoo because he seems so eager to do it. Let's talk about power rankings. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't give a fuck about top 8. I don't give a shit about top 6. So we're going to do top 4 only because, to be honest with you, half these brands don't last long enough to be top 4 anyways. So let's talk about the top 4 power rankings. Now, we're going to base this off of, you can base it off of achievements. You can base it off of players that you know. You can base it off of brands that you've been with. You can base it off of whatever the fuck you want to base it off of. But Zoo, from the brands that you know off the top of your head, again, I know it's hard because some of these guys don't last 6 months, but who would be, as it stands right now, before all the roster changes happen within the next couple of weeks, who do you think your top 4 teams are from 1 to 4?
Honestly, just like if you're a challenger League of Legends player and you want to like be successful in amateur, you're going to Polar Ace or Supernova, or you're just making your own scrim team with like a coach that knows what he's doing. Like you don't have to go to an org. Like you can legitimately just like a coach that you like and like 5 players just get together and scrim, and
so you think
better off. But
you think as challenger player making a team of your own with some coach that wants to help is better than going to some of these other brands outside of SN and Polar Ace that have like some kind of structure?
Well, yeah. I mean, like, nobody like really. I mean, I guess like some people know, but like I've been super bored recently, so I've been like hopping in and helping coaching and all that stuff while I'm trying to find a team, and I've actually been playing in some scrims too, and like trying to just get a better player perspective of these kids, and like quite honestly, like I mean I'm shit at the game, like don't get me wrong, but like there's just like so many instances where like things besides the game get in the way of allowing people to play the game. It's like somebody's got to go, or like someone can only play one game, or like
Right, yeah.
or there's some sort of like org meeting that like people have to sit in instead of fucking scrimming or something. It's just like eventually some like legitimately sometimes these pickup in-house scrims like amateur are like more productive, or is like the most productive thing that someone is gonna do in their day for League, because like sometimes like these organizations just like get around to everything but actually playing the game correctly.
Right,
And
yeah.
Wherever you can learn the game correctly and play the game correctly is where you should be. If that's at number 1, if that's at number 8, if that's at no number and just playing with a group, then by all means do it. But like I think the people who have consistently shown it have been Polar Ace and Supernova.
Okay, fair enough.
I think Zenith's a bit overrated too.
Okay, all right.
I think Zenith's actually super overrated.
All right,
but,
hearing it from Zoo first here. Go to Polar Ace, go to SN if you want to learn something, or make a team of your own if you're a challenger player and find a coach, which, I mean, in amateur, good luck. But with that being said, from Zoo's point of view, Lucien, let's talk about you. And I know, man, like there are people in here that are saying like hashtag Polar Ace or pack win or ace win or whatever the fuck you guys do nowadays. Lucien, give me your top 4 or give me a response a lot like Zeus. What do you think, man? Like, how does it kind of sit right now?
Polar Ace is the best.
Okay, fair enough.
Like, I think we put up the numbers and we handled our business well. So, I think we're number one. I think Supernova's hands down number two. I guess ASIO's three because they kind of kept it together, but like, I don't know, their team's nutty inconsistent. Like, I don't get how they like. Some days they look like they're the best team, and some days they just look like they're a bottom 8 team. So
I mean, there was that stint, right, where they were getting beat by their B team for like a little bit. So like, yeah.
So I don't know about I guess I'll put ASIO third, and I don't even know a fourth team.
Okay.
Like, no one stands out as like they're putting up great performances and staying clear. Like, for the most, you know what, the team that I go with is probably Polar Ace Blue, our team. I think we'd probably be in the top 2 argument if we got to keep the roster together.
Okay.
But, like, we were beating all the other amateur teams pretty handily. It wasn't much of a deal. We were beating PA White, too. Like, it was going 50-50 between the two, so I'm not that concerned.
Right.
And for the most part, I'm looking at what my org's doing. I'm not worried about... Like, Supernova, we run into them, like, weekly, so yeah, I'm going to be concerned about what Supernova's doing, because I basically have to prep for them every day. But outside of that, like, I'm not really worried about what the other orgs are doing until they start, like, competing with us on a weekly basis.
Right, yeah, for sure.
It's funny that you bring that up, too, because it's like, as like, this amateur scene continues to develop or whatever it's doing, like, there's a very interesting dynamic where teams just don't have equal opportunity, like, whatsoever. Like, it's you know, you kind of just RNG with, like, the amount of resources you start with, like, depending on who your owner is, or depending on, like, whoever, like, wherever your base point of operations is. Like, it could be, like, you know, like, someone's dad could randomly just give them, like, fucking 20 grand and just be like, here, kid, like, I don't want to spend time with you. You like these games or whatever. Go do something. Like, or it could just be like someone who's like really diehard passionate about it, but like only makes $8 an hour at his day job or $9 an hour or something. It's just like there's like kind of like unequal opportunity, but then at the same time, like that opportunity also like really starts to take off after a while when you start winning money at tournaments. And like things start becoming more and more available to you, and then you have more consistency. And it's like you talk about like not having to worry about like anyone else, but that's like because half the time like you don't even know who everyone else is, right? Like you don't know who's showing up, like who's breaking apart, who's showing up strong this time, like who's got their shit together or something. It's kind of just like I don't know, it just kind of seems like a never-ending loop of like people trying to get their foot in the door, but not only that, but actually walk through the door and like settle down. But it seems like 90% of teams just get kind of lost in like the settling down aspect.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then it's just like you guys have settled where you get to work with the same players for like almost a full year. Like an amateur, that's like unheard of. Like completely unheard of.
Right.
Like even in the amateur level with like DeMonte, Licorice, Zazel, definitely like all those guys, you would put them together for 2 weeks at a time and play in tournaments. Or like a 6-week league was like 3 years ago was like unheard of. That was like the big shit, right? Like so you put them together at most for 6 weeks, but then you have guys playing together for like with the same coaches too, or similar coaches for like almost a full year. Like what ragtag group of pickups with like a sponsor is going to catch up? Man,
what I would give for a damn amateurs team to last a full year. Yo, I'd give $5 for a team to last that long. Because to Zoo's point, like, that's the thing, right? Like, you prep for scrims, and the next thing you know, they're like, oh, hey, by the way, we're going to be trying out a jungle today. Yeah, you don't know who he is, and we forgot to mention it, but he's going to show up to scrims today because our other jungler, we decided yesterday that he's just not cutting it. And that's really where we're at, right? You got, like,
people off-rolling, too. Like, you got, like, people, like, fucking off-rolling in scrims. Like, I've literally had to play support in scrims as a D4 coach, like, in amateur. Because people are just not available or not there, and it's like, bro, I'm literally first timing Alistair in these scrims. Like,
I think one thing for a lot of these like new teams, one positive thing to this second year of academy is if there is movement of new players going up, like if there's new players going up, somebody's got to be leaving academy,
right?
And some of those players are gonna want to play on teams, and some of those guys are gonna be like, hey, I want to play with like my two buddies here who are also challenger who didn't make a team last year, and it's like, yep, just throw them all together. Here's our team, ship them out, and like you can compete with that. you might be able to catch up with that if you have resources. But I think the other thing is a lot of like, from what I've seen, it's just like a lot of players get like sick of the coach that they have for like 2 months, and they're like, all right, moving org with my group of friends because we're sick of our coach.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's
And it's like,
we're like one player or some shit like that, right?
Well,
it's,
and-
like, it's just like, yeah.
And it's like, hey, I'm challenger mid, right? But hey, if you're gonna pick me up, I got a challenger 80 carry that I've been playing with like the last 3 months. Kid's a beast. Probably want to replace
Yeah.
yours with it. Like I got, and that's the thing, right? Like amateurs, this like Zeus said kind of early on, is like it's this inconsistent thing where like a lot of the times it's hard for us to stick on this power rankings thing because teams are always changing. Like there are people that are like suddenly like, this month I'm not a mid laner anymore. Actually, our mid laner, he's a support. And we found a new mid laner. And then suddenly you're like, what the fuck am I prepping for anymore? It's like, wait, you even play support? And then it's like, okay, suddenly teams and their strength starts to go down because, they start to make changes and they think like, oh, because he's challenger, he can play this role and that role. And it's inconsistent. And it's, back to both of you and what you said, like there's a reason, and again, not to toot my own horn, and I know that I own SN, but there's a reason that SN and Polar Ace stay where they are because their players stay in their same roles. You don't see, Julien coming out tomorrow being like, yo, new starting support for Polar Ace. You're seeing it here first, or vice versa. You don't see, Iconic going, yo, I play a mean Scion top, so I'm going to top lane for Supernova. Like, those things don't happen for us because we understand that consistency is key. And it's shown, right? Like, look at Polar Ace. TCS champions. Now granted, there wasn't a whole lot of teams in it, but we'll let that slide. TCS champions, they earn their right. They're $50,000. They're $10,000 a piece richer. And vice versa, SN, went to Alienware. And we showed up, we did our business, we took care of what we had to do, we took our first and we left, right? Our roster didn't change much between those points outside of having mid laners, other than Sudsy and Strumpus. Like we kept it pretty consistent. There wasn't like Polar Ace had to prep for like, oh shit, they got a new top laner. Like we kept Bobby, you guys kept Flares, and it was like, okay, we're pretty much prepping for the same matchup. Whereas these bottom teams, they're always changing, and if they're not changing, they're keeping the same players that aren't, for lack of a better term, they're keeping all the same bad players, and they don't want to make a change to the point where it's like, yo, we prepped for these guys last week. We don't have to change too much of our prep. Like, we 2-0'd them last week. We're going to 2-0 them this week because they're not changing anything, right? Like, they're going to stay in the same state that they're in unless, they randomly found, like, a challenger mid laner, and we need to start prepping for that. But overall, it's like these brands that want to stay where they're at, they want to stay where they're at. So, to kind of end off on this subject, of course, people are like, yo, T-Combs, power rankings, and that's something that's been asked of me, but I'm not a fan of power rankings, okay? I used to be. I'll talk so much shit about power rankings. I'll tell you all day that, yo, hashtag SN fan for life, but I don't think that where I'm at right now works for that anymore. I think, like Lucien said, I think things change a lot. I don't think there's enough tournaments where a lot of us are together to make a solid power rankings based off the team and the brands. Like, while we're doing Alienware and taking first, Polar Ace is doing TCS. Like, there was no way for us to do both. I think as we go throughout the year and we start going to more events together, like LAN ETS, maybe another DreamHack, or even a Player 1 in the summer, I think we'll start to see, like, truly who's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But we can't make that assumption because half the time we're not even together because it's either Polar Ace as a brand doesn't see it worth to go to the event, or Supernova as a brand doesn't see it worth. And then suddenly it's like, if neither of us go, then you have a brand like Zenith or Vireo or, some random team of 5 that decided to go out to the middle of bumfuck nowhere and win a title. But it's like, but where were all the good teams at? Where was your SN? Where was your Polar Ace? Where was your Azio? Like, you guys played against nobodies. Can we even count that for you for your power rankings, right? And again, maybe I'm being a little harsh, like I'm the kind of guy that as soon as like, and I know we're using it as an example, but it's the only one I got. So I'm sorry, Myra, in advance. But Vireo, right? Like, they won a title. Does that mean that because they won that title that they deserve to move up in the power rankings? Like, hey, all props to them. Hey, that's a free money. I'm all about some free money. I'll go out to the middle of bumfuck nowhere for some free money. But don't sit there and say, yo, our league team is worth trying out for because we won this title in this bumfuck nowhere place, right? It's like, yo, where were the good teams, though, to challenge you for that money? Oh, we were all busy or we decided not to go? Okay, cool. So your title's pretty much just you going out and beating up on some other people. And I think that's a fair statement to make. And I'm glad, Myra, seen your statement that you agree with me. Like, it's one of those things, like, put us all in the same place. Let us battle, for a better term, like men, let them battle it out. And then, let's see who's actually first. And that's why I think Player 1 coming in January is going to be very good. So, Squad Father, this is the only plug you're getting. But I think Player 1 is going to be very good having these teams and seeing where we all kind of match up. Now that we've kind of gone through power rankings, I want to talk about something kind of important to me. All right. And I was going to make this the third thing, but we're going to talk about it second. Let's talk about the difference between the gold medal and the bag, right? And I say the bag, and a lot of people are like, yo, what's he talking about? What bag? I ain't seen this bag. We're talking about the money bag, all right? We're talking about that guap, that thing you put in your PayPal to pay for.
You act like you're the first white person.
I know, right? But we talk about that money that you put in your PayPal to pay for that ramen that you eat every Friday night. But we'll start with Lucien this time because I started with Zoo. Lucien, do you think that players have kind of lost that feeling for wanting the gold medal more than they want cash? Do you think that something that holds amateur players back is the fact that they're looking for teams that can get them the easy money rather than titles to go on their resume? Do you think that that's something that's become more prevalent in the amateur scene?
I think at max 20% of the players want a title.
That's pretty significant, bro. You saying that that's a big number. 20%'s little. That's a little amount of players that actually care about titles nowadays.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. That's at max. Not many players actually want to win the tournament. They want the money that's coming from the tournament to where they'll make cuts and they'll do what they can against an organization just because they think they might have a 1% better chance of winning a tournament with that player, or they might go behind ownership's back because they don't trust them and then they want the money.
Right.
That shit happens so often that it's ridiculous. And for the most part, I run into who we just had on Blue in Kapari. He's very much, I want to go to a LAN, I want to win a tournament, I want to put up and show up that I can beat these top players, which he can. And I think for some of the players, they want to go out and they want to prove that they can beat the top players that everyone's touting. But for teams like us, for Supernova and Polar Ace, we have players that are either going up to Academy or looking to go up to Academy, or leaving Academy. Which means if they're leaving Academy, they're looking for money because they just got off of getting paid.
Bingo. Yeah.
They do not care about, I can show up in amateur. They're like, no, I can already show, I can get tryouts for pro teams. Give me my money.
Right.
And then we go out and we win tournaments for that. That's the point for most of us. And then I think that's all that people are looking for out of that. And then
yeah, hashtag give me a free trip to LAN ETS and I'll join your team. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if your team's good or not. Just fly me out to Montreal and I'll play for you. That's something that I think is becoming more prevalent. I can't tell you how many DMs that we get that's yo, is your team going to LAN ETS? You guys hosting tryouts? We're looking to go. We're a squad of 3. It's bro, I'm not gonna just send you because you want a free trip. It's
right.
How do you benefit me? Are you gonna bring me home a title from LAN ETS, or are you just joining this because you need a trip? And I think that's something that's becoming more prevalent. But Zoo, you've dealt with a lot of players. I mean, we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, but you're in the pro scene, man. Those guys, they get comfortable, they get that salary, and then it's suddenly do they give a shit? So how do you think that amateur and pro, how do they translate? Is it a lot of the same? Are there pro players that just care about their paycheck more than they care about, the title that they can bring you? I mean, not to hurt feelings, but, GGS Academy didn't have the best season of their lives. Where do you think players are at mentally?
Yeah, it's actually a huge problem in North America that people are getting complacent, and it shouldn't just be a player problem. It shouldn't be a player's fault. It is everybody. It's players, it's coaches, it's managers, it's everybody. In North America, sans maybe the office, the office people business of director of marketing operations or something,
Right.
Aside from those people, the people involved with competing, coaches, managers, players, everyone like that, complacency is a huge problem in North America. And I don't want to put a figure on it or anything,
Right,
but it's something that I've run into. It's something I've run into with multiple players at every level: amateur, NA challenger, professional play, academy, LCS, even international players. There's plenty of complacency and there's plenty of different changes. And then I've fallen to it myself as well. When I came off of E United and MLGB and DreamHack and stuff like that, I had a lot of lessons to learn this year. So like I had to really like fail this year and like be humbled because I was getting really not complacent, because anyone who knows me knows that like I'm just a workhorse, and I don't like not working. I kind of go like mentally insane, but um the quality of my work suffered. Like, just that's how it is. And um when you're kind of at the first point in your life for most of these players and most of these gamers where like, maybe they didn't have the best upbringing or they didn't have the best relationship with their parents or anything like that. And then they go to a place where they actually are making adult money for the first time.
Right.
They can live on their own. Like, especially in pro play where it's like you have a chef cooking your fucking breakfast for you, dude. Like, you're like 20 years old, man, and you got this guy cooking all three of your meals while you're sitting on a beanbag chair watching video games, like, and they're paying you a bag for it, man. Like, why the fuck aren't you gonna get complacent? But um, it's kind of just something that everybody has to deal with, and it's also just like a part of growing up. And like, I'm not a player, and like I fell victim to it this year a bit. I mean, I had a multitude of other problems going on. Like I was
Sure.
diagnosed with an autoimmune disease this year and shit like that, and like there's plenty of other life things, but like the quality of my work did suffer a bit in summer of this split because of said complacency issue. And it's kind of a very bad problem. And I think if most players are kind of lazy, just
Fair enough.
straight up.
Yeah. Straight
Like
up.
most
Yeah.
players, even some of the players that I've worked with have been fucking lazy, and you have to drag them across the finish line.
Sure.
But eventually, if you're gonna cut it in this scene, you realize eventually that you just can't do that.
Right.
And like some people recognize it earlier, some people recognize it later. Like um for me I kind of had to learn it this year. Like at 25, like at 25 years old I had to kind of learn this lesson, and now I'm kind of getting punished for it in this off season. But some players learn it quickly, some players don't. Some players never learn it and they just fail. But like eventually you gotta fucking snap out of it.
Right.
And like there's like I would say probably like 70% of North America, like including amateur scene, I would say probably like 75% of amateur is like already in that state of mind. It's kind of concerning. But just
Right.
like ask yourself right now, would you like tomorrow, if you're a player or you're a coach or you're anyone really, like tomorrow at like 6 p.m., would you rather scrim a team that is of equal skill of you where you get like the best practice you've ever had, or would you rather play in a tournament of silver players and win $100 for free?
Right.
Like which one is better for you in the future? Like which one's better for your career? Which one would you choose right now? And like there are many points in my life where I would choose the money, and like there's so many people that like cannot say they wouldn't take the money. But like in the overall long-term shit, like that scrim is better for you
Right.
than the tournament.
Now.
And like you need to actually like be invested in your long-term future and not just money. Because like amateur money isn't gonna get you shit, dude. Like amateur money will get you a new pair of sneakers or it'll pay your cell phone bill or something. But like you need to look at something long term if
Right,
you're
right.
only
Building that
focused on
building that
money, right?
resume,
Yeah,
like we
yeah,
talked about, right? Like so, and then this is, I guess,
yeah.
Lucian. I mean, I know I'm gonna direct this question at Zoo because he's being the real, like Ethok said, the real Brody right now. But let me kind of shoot this to both of you. I mean, Lucian, again, I don't know if you've ever lived in a gaming house or if have wanted to, but I'll start with Zoo on this question only because I think it's something that's very important and something that gets brought up quite often. Now, obviously, for those that don't know SN or don't know me and Zoo and our relationship, obviously SN had a boot camp, what I consider, I mean, before Zenith, so shout out to Sammy B and their gaming house, but before a lot of people did the gaming boot camp aspect, SN did one way back about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
The summer of 2017, 2016, to where we wanted to try having
summer 2016.
2016, thank you. It's been a long time, man. Of having a boot camp and kind of seeing how that develops players and builds that bond. But do you guys think that being and living, like obviously you guys go to LAN events, and you stay in the same house, and DreamHack, you stay in the same house. Zoo's done a boot camp with me for DreamHack for a week. But do you think those kinds of things are important for players? to kind of experience first before they start getting all wrapped up in the money. Like for us, Zoo, like, granted, my first time doing it, I was very young, didn't know what the hell to do other than, hey, we got to have a spot for computers and some good internet. Obviously you guys played during the top of the summer where it was 80 degrees all the goddamn time. And except for when you were sleeping, was it cool at night? But at that time, people that showed up to practice were the guys that we kind of really looked at, like, yo, these guys, even though they're sweating their ass off and having to do it in their underwear and a tank top, like, they're still here to play. Like, do you, between the two of you, think that those kind of experiences need to be had in order to understand, like, that complacency is like a big thing?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, Lucien, you haven't been in a house yet, man. Like, what do you think? Like, tell me something. Like, do you think that
you go first.
Yeah, that there could be an experience that needs to be had there?
I mean, yeah. I think getting in-house experience is something that helps no matter what. It gets you that in-person experience for coaching. It's something that, I think it was the main draw for going to, like, GGEA when it was still around here in amateur. Mm-hmm. So, like, that's what people want. They want that in-house experience. And so, like, I completely understand people wanting the in-house experience, but, like, dude, everyone is complacent in NA. Like, coaches, players, everything, and they're so worried about appearance. Like, half the coaches I've seen are so dead focused on winning scrims in NA amateur. They're like, yeah, no, we gotta win this, and, like, they gotta win at everything. It's like they're not actually
your name onto a player or some shit like that.
Yeah,
right?
They're like there are so many players that we've had who are, like, real sketched out, but, like, if I'm trying to, like, support them, or I'm like, hey, congratulations on doing this, and like, oh, you're just trying to ride on my coattail and be on my good side. It's like, no, I'm just, like, proud of my players when they do well. Yeah. Like, I'm not trying to be like, oh yeah, I helped you get there. Like, I know if I did something or if I didn't do something, but, like, I just want to see them succeed. And, like, that's for the most part how we go about it at Polar Ace, is who wins, like, who loses, it doesn't matter. We're just trying to improve the players and get the best team possible out of them.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of people in NA who are just like, no, I gotta win now, and I gotta, and then once they start winning, they're like, all right, we can take it easy. Like, we beat those guys, we can kind of start cutting back on it.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, and again, like I said, like, Tanner and I, we kind of lived through it. Tanner more than me because I got my own house, but something that I think that boot camp brought to light was we found out who, in better term, the real homies were, and who was only there for the boot camp and wanted that, oh, I get a free gaming house? Yeah, cool, I'll come. Like, we started to realize, like, who was there to better themselves, and quickly who was there to just kind of see what the experience was like. And that's something with a lot of gaming experience. I mean, Zoo, you did Montreal, right? Like, it was a 1 week turnaround for you as a head coach. You had players that, like, I mean, I wouldn't say, shout out to the 5 that went, but I wouldn't say any of those guys were there for the free trip. Obviously, they came to win. You came to win, right?
Yeah.
Like, neither you nor I had been to Canada at that point. So, I mean, tell me about that, man. I mean, you're somebody that went from player in a house that was 80 degrees. You went to Montreal to be a full-time coach on a free trip. Like, tell me your thoughts. Is that something that you think made you a better person? Do you think that's something that could make other people better players, better people, like, that could help kill that complacency? Like, what are your thoughts on team houses or boot camps and things like that?
Yeah, so you can kind of break it up into a couple different things. Like, I think first off, like, you can split it up into, like, living, like, together, or, like, living at a place or whatever, and then you can split it up into, like, tournaments as well. And I think both are, like, LAN tournaments. I think they're both incredibly important. The housing being for the fact that, like, I think the single most important reason that players should try, like, getting housing, or, like, doing a LAN together and getting housing together for a week or two, like, those sorts of things take you out of your comfort zone. And then you're sitting there in an Airbnb where you're sleeping on an air mattress. You don't have your full double monitor PC. You don't have your queen size bed. You don't have, like, any of the shit that you have. You don't have your parents cooking food for you downstairs. And it's just you and your priorities in a room. And it's like, what am I going to do now?
Right.
Am I going to play the game? Am I going to be the best? Or am I going to sit here miserable in this place that is not home for me? And, like, it's kind of like, you need to like, do that. You need to be honest with yourself and be like, all right, am I cut out for this shit, and is this just a hobby? And a lot of times like going out and living on your own or going out and, you know, experiencing something is like the best way to find that out, you know? Like I've met multiple coaches who have gone professional, go move out to LA, and they're just like, I can't do it, dude. Like I can't do it. And it's like they're good coaches, but like it's just like, you know, social anxiety or being away from family, or like they have a
Right. Yeah.
girlfriend that's on the East Coast, or you know, they don't want to leave their friends, or they, you know, there's always something. There have been people that have fallen to that in the past, and like players, that happens all the fucking time, dude. Um, so I think those situations are really important, and then it's also about like you learn more about yourself when you're around other people. You learn like what things do people like about me, what things do people dislike about me, because you need to learn like social cues. You need to learn like working together with other people. You need to learn like conflict resolution is like one of the most important fucking things. Like if you're in a team house and you're arguing with a teammate, you can't log off Discord, bro. Like
Yeah. Right.
I'm
Yeah.
sitting right here. Unless you're gonna like walk up, go into your room, shut the door and lock it, which granted it happens. Like it happens, trust me, like at every level, but you know, you can't really avoid an argument. You
Right.
know, or like you got to learn to like conflict resolve. You got to learn to like embrace your flaws and like shit like that. And
Right.
then so I think the housing is really important. And then for LAN tournaments, um again, it's just like it's about getting repetitions in, and it's about getting an understanding of yourself. Like you learn when you go to a tournament, how am I feeling? Like how am I responding to this event? Like is my focus just as 100% as it is at home? Like um how is the external pressure like affecting my gameplay? How is it affecting my prep? How is my sleep? Like, am I able to sleep at night? You know, there are plenty of players that go to LAN, they go to an Airbnb, and it's like they don't get a minute of sleep. They
Right.
just lay in bed because they're like, I'm not at home and I'm nervous as fuck, and then they just shit the bed in the tournament. So
Well,
and
and kind of
both of them give you placeholders too. It's like you go to DreamHack, and it's like, okay, you go and you finish 8th place, and it's like, well, I guess we got some work to do, lads. And
right.
then it's like, you know, you can use it as a bench stone. Like for me, I've told you this personally, but um, you know, I was an analyst at Tempo. I was an assistant at United. I was never a head coach really for any project besides like open qualifiers. That was really the only thing that I like coached. Um, so this DreamHack thing was like, for me, uh, Hermit at United was always telling me that I had the potential to become an LCS head coach, and like I genuinely believe him that I do in the future, not now. But I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take this experience and I'm gonna head coach. I'm just be like, dude, if I shit the bed, then I suck. You know, like
Right. Yeah.
I'm not gonna be a head coach like for a while. Like I got a lot of work to do. Or it's like, you know, I show up, I do well, you know, maybe I got a shot. And you know, I showed up and we turned our progress around, and I felt like I hit my stride a little bit, and I was like, all right, you know, maybe I'm not as shit as I thought I was. And then I got an opportunity from Loco, so
Right.
you know, it's a good like way to gauge where you're at, you know.
And piggybacking off that, Lucian, because you're kind of the dark horse, man. Like, I mean, this is the first time me even talking to you outside of DreamHack Montreal, where I'm gonna be honest with you, I totally forgot you were even a coach for Wind and Rain until like, you know, I had some reminders and you saying it today. But you know, Lucian, you know, take me through this, man. Like, it's something that comes up, I'm sure, for Polar Race a lot, and I know for SN a lot. You know, when players, new players, or free agents, or guys that are looking for orgs, you know, something that they look for is like, oh, well, are you gonna send me to LAN ETS? Like, am I gonna get a free trip? Okay. Well, if you can't do that, so and so brand's gonna do it, so we're gonna go with them. And it's something that Zoo mentioned too. Like, should players, when they look for teams, look for a team that's going to take them to an event for free? Or should they find a team, and we kind of harped on this a little bit, but should they find a team that has the staff and may not be able to go to the event, but may later on kind of give them what they need? Like, is it worth joining a team that's going to send you to an event for free if you're just going to get knocked out in the first round or two? Like, do you think that experience actually, you know, for better or worse, fucking matters if you just get knocked out in the first round. Like, do you think that whole 2 days of going out there and being with all the boys and the lads and the coaches, like, do you think that makes a difference in a player? Or do you think that players should really find a team that, like, they've got to progress with and get and earn that right? You know, and again, like, you're my dark horse. So tell me something, Lucien, like, hey man, as like a head coach, like trying to find his way and now going to Polaris as you know, the assistant coach or whatever else, like, do you think that players should find teams for free trips, or how about a team that fucking wins?
I mean, I think it depends. So, like, I think if you're looking to grow as a player, there's very few teams with coaches who can do that and coaches who can manage that. Like, I think Polaris, we have the coaching staff to improve players. I think at Supernova, you have the coaches to improve the players. And, like, I think there are some teams that do have the coaches that are good enough to improve the players, but I don't think there's a reason outside of that where you're looking to improve. So, like, if you got a full challenger roster and you want to go to a LAN and some other team that isn't in the top tier, that, like, isn't, you know, comfortable with their roster, is willing to send you, go ahead. Like, as long as you're confident you can win. Because I think at that point it's pointless. Not that, like, getting second place is pointless at a LAN, but,
right,
like, if you're going to get knocked out, like, really early on in the knockout stage, that was pointless for you. Like, if you're not going to actually compete against a big team and you're not going to put up a performance you're proud of, it's pointless.
But Lucien, it's not my money, bro. Like, it's your money. You got to send me. So, like, should I just take my free trip and just join this roster just to go? Like, I mean, as a player, like, what's more important to me?
That was more rewarding for the owners.
Oh,
if you're not going to get, like, at least top 4, it's not worth it for your team.
No,
don't send these players.
I would agree with that, right? Like, hey, and this shout out to my owners or marketing people, like, or financial people. Yeah, don't waste your money on a team that's not going to bring you back the money you spent. And I think that's something that, Lucien, we talked about this a little bit earlier. Like, some of these orgs, man, they go out and it's like, we're going to send this entire roster. And I swear, sometimes I'm like, bro, that roster is not even going to break the top 6 in this event. Are you sure you want to do that? But then you start to realize that, like, some of these brands, it's not their money that they're playing with, so it doesn't really matter to them, right? Or vice versa. For players, it's not their money, right? Like, it's like some people are saying in chat, like, it's T Combs' money, it's Chrono's money, you know, Focus and his own team, it's Focus's money. Like, it's not my money that I have to worry about, so I don't give a shit. It's a free trip for me. So I think that is something that should be heavily looked into. Is at the end of the day, like, are you sending players so that way you have 5 people walking around with your jersey on and you hope that people are going to notice you? Or are you sending players because you want to win a damn championship and be known for something?
Right.
And then as a player, like you said, Lucien, like, are you going to put on the performance of your life, or are you going to get knocked out by a team that's only been together for a week and get knocked out in round 1? Shout out to Wildcard and Daruk. But, you know, is that what you're going out to do? And you know, again, expectations change. You know, things always change as far as tournament goes. There's upsets that always happen. But, you know, Lucien, tell me something, man. Like, do you guys send players, you know, with the intention that you're going to bring back something? Or do you send players with the, like, half consideration, like, we might, but it's not a big deal if we don't? Do you think that Polaris as a brand knows when they send people that they're bringing home a title, or do you think Polaris sends it just because they care about branding?
I mean, for the most part, we send teams because we know we're gonna win.
Right.
Like,
okay,
we're confident, and like for DreamHack, Winter Ray went because they knew they were gonna win, and like everyone else rated them as like the 5th, 6th team, but like we were confident.
I mean, you stole my boy Pavel, so how can you lose, bro?
Exactly, right? Like, we were confident that we could win that. So like, when I'm looking at it, you know, sometimes you get the messages. Like, Wildcard was rated number 1 at that DreamHack tournament. They didn't win. Could they have? Hell yeah. That was a good team. But, like, they didn't. So that's kind of like, all right, we didn't win on this one, but as a solid team, they can win if we keep investing in them. But, like, there are some teams where it was like, you're sending them for no reason and you're wasting your time. And it's like, I think there are some lands, like the Wichita land, if it's going to be a $5,000 prize pool, that money needs to go to ownership only, just so that they can get their money back for the tournament and the players get LAN experience. Because if you don't get that LAN experience, and then your team shits the bed like that wildcard team did, then you just lost your investment, and you didn't know that team was going to shit the bed at LAN. You know, you don't get that warning. But if you go to, like, a Wichita, and you go there, and it's like, oh man, our team just lost to some randoms in Wichita. We're not sending them to like a player one.
Right.
Like you don't want to risk it if it's like a 5K prize pool, right?
Right. And to Ethug's point,
Lucien is like, how many games at fucking DreamHack did you guys win under 20 minutes, bro?
Just a ton.
Like, yeah, it was like more than half our games in
I mean,
were like 18 minute stomps, and it's just like, why are you paying money to be here? Stop.
Yeah, we were so confident that we were gonna win that as opposed to like me sticking around and helping with the team, I just left and scouted the other teams.
Right.
And just like
Yeah,
watched
I
how you
remember that
guys were
'cause you're
doing.
over my fucking shoulder looking at my pick band, bro.
Right. Well,
that's good.
And to that point, right? Like both of you said, and like Lucien said in this, like teams as brand owners and as coaches, like we care about. Man, you really want me to show that dog that bad, huh, Mike? Okay, but to that point, like we care about the prize pool, right? Like we're not gonna, and it's like I was telling one of my players actually this week, like we're not gonna send a team to play for $2,000. Like, not. It sounds really complacent, but like, what fucking teams show up for 2,000? Like, Supernova and Polaris are like, if we got the money, we'll go.
Yeah.
But like, you're gonna end up playing against like, like bottom tier
Locals.
collegiate team, locals. Teams of 5 random players, some D5 kids that got together. Like we don't focus on those small prize pools, but like Ethug said, when you got $20,000 TCS money, and $10,000 in Atlanta TS, suddenly those things become more worth it. And to Chrono's point, like there are players out there that will play for something as small as $500. Like they will go to an event for that money because they just want to go.
Yeah, I mean, I would if
Right.
like if I'm choosing between like, let's say this Alienware tournament and TCS were not going on at the same time, like say TCS was like after or something like that. If I have an opportunity to go to Alienware, have professional pictures taken, do interviews, do all that stuff, be streamed on Alienware's thing, and I'm coming away with $0, I don't give a fuck. You're flying me to Vegas, like I'm getting all this exposure, all that stuff, like it's worth it, like it's if like the size of the event and stuff is gonna pull, then like cool, it's worth it. But usually like it's not. Like the smaller tournament, like money tournaments, like almost never have any sort of exposure whatsoever. But like I don't know, I'd like some of these events and stuff, like if they were in like cool places, or like if you knew, like I know for you, because like for coaching it's the biggest pain in the ass when you go to a tournament, because nobody ever thinks about the coaches at a LAN tournament. Like ever.
I slept under a desk at DreamHack.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just like no one ever thinks about fucking coaches. So it's like if you were to go to an event where it's like, hey, you're probably not going to pull any money out of this because the prize pool is going to go straight towards your flights, but like you got like a nice hotel, and like there's actually a coach's headset for you to do pick ban instead of through fucking Discord, and it's like all right, dope, like I'll probably go. Or it's like we have 144 hertz monitors, so like our tournaments always run on time. It's like, oh sick, like I don't care how much money I'm making, dude. Like I'll go
I've
to
never
that.
made money in amateur.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like as a
Like-
player, coach, like if you come with the expectation to make money out of amateur, you might be in the wrong business, like that's the thing. And that's kind of the problem that we've been running into lately, is like people are starting to realize how big these prize pools are. And like there's a lot of players you can't walk up to and be like, hey bro, like this event's gonna be free for you, we're gonna put you in a hotel, but if you take first, you're not getting any money. A lot of players will be like, whoa, bro, I need to at least get 300 out of this. Like phone bill doesn't get paid off of no money, right? And that's the thing, like players don't play for free. And you guys have said it, Zoo said it, Lucien said it, like there are players that value their skill at more than just a free trip. There are players that are like, yo, you can take my flight from it, but what is left of it, I want. Even if it's $10, like I want my $10. And that's really what this comes down to at the end of the day, is like players aren't playing to play for titles. There's a very small majority that play for titles anymore, or the pride. They play because it's like, yo, break down the numbers for me. You're going to pay for my flight? All right, cool. You're going to pay for my hotel? All right, cool. So when you get $10,000, we're going to give you your money back for the flight. We're going to give you your money back for the hotel. But that extra money, I get to keep, right? Like, whereas like some of us would be like, and Zoo and Lucien know it well, like we don't use that money to go on fucking vacation. like that extra money that if we do keep it is gonna go towards your next trip. Like there is gonna be another event that's gonna pop up for bumfuck nowhere, and I'm gonna need that money. But instead, you would rather have that money because you want to use it for whatever else, rather than rather than just give it to your org to send you to something else. You'd rather be like, yeah, I want $200 for some ramen this week, bro. Like, just give me my fucking ramen, And that to me is where this scene kind of lacks. Like, to find a group of 5 players that would only play just to play would be stellar. And it's not shout out to like, no disregard to Lucien's players, my players, or players that Zoo's worked with. I've worked with great guys, and there's a lot of people that I travel with that I would travel with endlessly. But there is that big issue where like half of these guys will look me in the face and be like, yo, T Combs, I want my $50. Don't keep my $50 for the next trip. And I think that's because some of them don't think that it's going to be a long-term thing for them. And they would rather risk another trip and keep their $50 than they would give it to an org that they may not be with long-term. Right?
Yeah, it's just a mindset thing.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's just straight up mindset.
For the most part, like when I said I haven't made money in amateur, I mean like, not net positive. I've never made money. Like out of all the tournaments I've won, I've never seen any of the money from any of those tournaments.
For sure, but your flights have been paid for, right?
Exactly. Like if they're paying for my flight, I'll do it. Like I was just happy that my housing was paid for Montreal. I drove to Montreal.
Hey, Montreal's fucking expensive. All right, we all know that for a damn fact. I agree with you, and that's what it comes down to, right? Lucian's right. Like if the trip's paid for, as far as I'm concerned, for you as a player, you as a coach, or you as any staff member, it's fucking vacation, bro. Take your free vacation and shut your mouth.
Yeah, it's a mindset thing for sure. Like,
and it's it's not just vacation though. Like lands are different environments. Like just straight up, they're different environments. Yeah. Like playing at DreamHack, there's the people behind you. There's the CS:GO teams who won't shut up whenever they get one kill. Like you have a lot of people there, and you have to get used to it. And you don't want to be like nervous or not used to it when you go to like a major LAN. Like if Player One holds a big tournament, like you kind of got to get that experience. So players are so worried, like, can I get the money here, or like, will I get the money if I go to this tournament? And it should be like, dude, this is gonna make you a better player. This is gonna prepare you more, because now you're not gonna get so like caught up and nervous when you go to LAN, or you're not getting that.
So on that,
you just gotta think short term, long term. Like it's just like. Even if I don't make it on a team this split, like, I've had friends and even my parents, like, ask me, they're like, oh, what do you do if you don't get on a team? And it's like, well, I just work a normal-ass job, and then I just fucking try to get on a team for summer. Like, what do you mean? And they're like, oh, well, like, are you gonna quit? And it's like, what, because I didn't get a job for one split? Like, I'm thinking, like, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years down the future, dude. Like, I'm thinking, like, esports has gotten to a point where like you can legitimately build your life off of it now. Like I opened up my 401k this year with the Golden State Warriors for like, that's the first time I've done some adult shit like that, like setting up a 401k and consistently investing a certain percentage into my future every month, like regardless of where I'm working. Like that's where esports like is going now. And like if you're only thinking 6 months ahead, you're not gonna do well. Right. Like it's just like there are people who are legitimately making successful resurgences back in the scene. Like look at Koobs. Koobs hasn't been an NA or hasn't been a pro coach in 3 years or something like that, and then he comes back, gets the opportunity at Giants. They did their thing. And then he comes back and like he's still coaching, like he's doing all of his shit, like he I don't know where he's at, but like he came back and like people were like hyped that he came back, and like there are people like who have kind of just been doing this coaching thing in and out for a couple of years now, and if you have a bad split or you have a bad year, it's just like any other traditional sports, right? Like you're gonna suffer from it. But if you aren't willing to like stick it out and like struggle for like at least a year or so, then you probably shouldn't be doing this.
So on that subject that Zoo's on, and Lucien, you kind of touched on it too. And for those that don't know, since Return's doing it and Coach Mike's doing it, If you donate $1, you can ask a question, and you know, I'll ask these dudes what you want to know. And again, some of you are saying like Zoo's the real dude. I know he's the real dude. Okay, you can say amen. It's Preacher Zoo over there, right? He knows a lot.
Thanks, Abu.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
So that being said, returned, he asked, you know, what would make up a perfect amateur LAN event for you guys, right? Obviously, I've got my fucking complaints. We got DreamHack paying out late. We've got some fucking tournaments that don't know when to end day one and they want to go to 2 a.m. We got some events that want to go for 9 weeks fucking long or 11 weeks, DSG.
Yo, cut that shit, by the way. 12 weeks? What the fuck?
Yeah,
Come on.
12, 11 weeks, that's too much, guys.
Chill.
We're amateur
Longer
players.
than LCS, bro.
Right. That's
Come on.
exactly. So that's one thing. But
on.
Lucien, I'm gonna start with you, bro, because Polar Race dropped out of DSG because it was too fucking long and too many games to worry about because we were doing UPL as well. What would make up if we could fly right now to an amateur event? What do you think? What are your top 3 things that you think the event would need?
I mean, I think the main thing is like not BYOC. BYOC tournaments are just a plague, and I don't want to do it.
Yep.
But I think like a big thing. I don't care if you have a LAN or anything. Just hold like I think UPL is doing a good job with their tournaments. Keep a consistent tournament. We know when it's happening. We know the prize pool, and don't make me take out like half of my week when I can use scrim time just so that we can play in your tournament.
For sure.
And
Yeah.
like why Polaris dropped out of DSG was because we said, all right, if we drop out of DSG, Polaris Blue can do in-house scrims with White. That's so much better than playing in the DSG and like beating up on Windstorm. Like,
Yeah.
it's not worth our time to go in there and just roll through people for 12 weeks, twice a week, when I could be scrimming against our other team who are also academy players. Like,
Yeah.
just give me a good, consistent tournament.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, these 26 viewers are gonna miss out on me beating up on a D3 player. Like,
Right.
holy fuck.
But that being
Yeah.
said, Lucien,
Brutal, dude,
what's your
for
number
my
2
branding.
thing? Like, no BYOC. Obviously, we all hate BYOC, okay? First of all, we spend a lot of fucking money to travel to your events and stay in a hotel. If you're not going to pay for my travel, don't ask me to bring my damn rig and my players to bring that rig. That shit's fucking expensive. But what's the number
yeah.
2 thing, Lucien? What do you think that these LAN events are missing, man?
Yeah, you know what? Like, I think when Player One had like the stages set up for the actual amateur tournament,
Yeah, that
like
shit was sweet.
the intro was real cringy. Like
Yeah.
that shit was real bad. But the stages, like that was good. Like actually.
Well,
give us a
okay,
stage.
wait. Before you say the stages were good, and we sit here and we give all the props to Player One. First of all, any LAN event, Alienware, I'm calling you out. DreamHack, I'm calling you out. Player One, I'm calling you out. Holy shit! Either put us in another room, or fucking put us far enough to where I can't hear the other guy. If I can literally hear Zenith's top laner screaming TP, 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 bro, you have the wrong setup. Either invest in some goddamn soundproof boxes or find a goddamn room for these teams to go in so we don't have
Dude,
to hear one another.
LCS won't even invest in the.
That's what I'm
soundproof.
saying. But at least
Uh-huh.
LCS, there's a crowd and goddamn headphones so you can't hear one another. And they're far enough where it's like, they're not going to happen. But god damn it. Guys, if you're going to run an event, UPL, DSG, anybody, like, at least split these guys far enough apart so we can't hear each other. Because not to break the camel's back on this, they're humans. If I hear somebody screaming TP, the first thing I'm saying in my headset is, hey, they're gonna TP. Hey, they're TPing. don't fucking move. Wait. And then suddenly the game's just different, right? Because online we can't hear that shit. So we're gonna make choices based off what we see, not what we hear. So that's number 2, Lucien. I would agree with that. What's your third thing, Lucien? What do you think's the third thing these events need?
To add into that earlier point, I'm just saying, from third place match onwards, when they're packing up DreamHack around us, could you just fucking not?
Oh,
like,
yeah. Oh,
like
my
they're packing up,
God.
and because they're packing up, they unplug fans' computer in the middle of the game, or they unplug 3 players' internets for Zenith, and it's like, okay, well, I guess we're definitely playing Supernova now because they just got.
Bro.
Well,
rolled.
all right,
Yeah.
all right,
Oh, God.
all right.
Yeah,
Hold up,
Zoo's
hold
gonna
up,
bring
hold
it up. Here we go.
So we were fucking smashing them that game anyway, so it
Zenith,
didn't really
yeah.
matter. We were
I
up
wasn't
like
watching.
12-4, we were up like 6,000 gold or something, and then it's like, well, it's because Fan is the one, like, Fanatic's the one that, like, it's his computer and shit, and, like, I love Gabriel to death. He's just, like, my absolute, like, him and Julian are, like, my just 2 favorite people in amateur, but, fucking, yeah, he was trying to, like, say that they were, like, setting up some play or something. I think you guys are getting wiped anyway.
Yeah.
matter.
Oh yeah, like restart.
But it was super annoying. It was like it was like 30 minutes. It took like 30 minutes to get that shit set back up. So it's like,
Oh, yeah.
even though like the game was pretty one-sided, it was like, for us, I had to take 5 minutes with the guys and be like, okay, do you remember what we were doing? Like, do you like, guy, like, no, like, don't look at the monster girls over there, like the hot girls that were selling monster, or
Right.
giving away the free monster, right? It's like,
Yo,
no,
free
don't
monster
look at
booth.
them. It's like, don't look at them. It's like, game. And there was like, what was our game plan? And everyone's just like looking at me with like drool coming out of their mouth. They're just like, we just want to play, dude. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But,
And like
yeah.
they were packing up around us,
That
and
shit
it's
was
like,
so annoying.
What a hype finals where everything is getting packed up, and I can like before there's computers in the way, and it's like, hey, I can see them standing behind the computers
Oh my
down there.
god. And that was the most detrimental thing too, right? For us to be up in the finals, throw the lead, and then to hear you guys from across the venue screaming because you knew it was over, like,
The echo. Yeah.
holy shit, bro. Like, I get it. Like, you guys have time schedules you're trying to stick to. But if you're gonna run an event, fucking make some time for these like games to go. Like, something at Vegas that we had an issue with was like, we were on a time clock, right? Like, suddenly, like, we had an issue with the computer, and it was like, guys, we gotta get these games going. We're on a either make some extra time for shit to go wrong, or don't run a goddamn event. Like, for you to put pressure on my team to get something started because you didn't make enough time for it is not my fucking problem. Like, you are an admin. Either be ready for the event to go wrong, or don't host the event, okay? And that's with anybody. DreamHack, Vegas, Wichita. If you don't make enough time for these events to go on, do not have them, because you don't belong in running a tournament. If you're going to tell me, like, we need to squeeze in a winner's bracket, loser bracket, and a best of 5 finals all in one night, then you're prepared for this to go till 4 a.m. And on top of that, you better be prepared for me and my head coaches and my players to bitch about that, because ain't nobody want to stay up till 4 a.m. playing League of Legends. Like, we didn't come all this way for that.
Yeah.
You know?
Like a DreamHack, I got over 3 days. I got 7 hours of sleep in 3 days. Like, over the course of 3 full nights, I got 7 hours of sleep.
Right.
Like, through that tournament, because we were legitimately there till like 1 o'clock in the morning, and then I did prep until like 4, and then we were up at 6:30 to go to the venue, and it was like, holy shit, dude. I think, yeah, I don't know, dude. Like, I think I had, in 1 day of that DreamHack, I think I drank 7 full cans of Monster in like a 24-hour period.
Oh my god! And now that
And
you
like,
mention
I ended
that,
up throwing up in the bathroom after the finals. Like, after we lost, I ended up going to the bathroom and just puking because I was no sleep, and like I was trying to eat healthy, but there was like, all the food was like a 20-minute walk away,
right?
and like,
Yo, and that's
oh my
the other
god,
thing.
bro,
It's like,
I felt like such shit
as an event
at
organizer,
that event.
holy shit! If you're not gonna give my players at least free food, can we get some goddamn water packs, bro? Like, give some free water bottles out. Don't make me have to go across the venue, spend $40 for 5 water bottles, and be like, oh, sorry, we forgot. Like, provide the
Yeah.
necessities for these top teams, man. Like, if you're gonna host us there till 4 a.m., you better be supplying lunch, dinner, free water, snacks. Like, these guys are gonna have to sit there through all these hours. Please, for the love of God, give them something to do. Like, the fact that I already have to spend money to come out here, and then you're telling me I have to buy my own water, like, you aren't fit to be an admin for a
Dude,
tournament.
honestly, like, amateur, obviously amateur has a shit ton to learn in terms of like coaching, and because I think coaching in amateur is incredibly poor, and
Yep.
like, and also like management at this level is incredibly poor as well. But that's like one of the probably most underrated factors at this level, is like management, and like how things go on behind the scenes. And I think a lot of these tournaments have a lot to learn from professional managers. Like, I actually think like there are certain people behind the scenes, like a Michael Artris, that just like completely makes your environment. And like, there are simple things that these LCS managers do on a daily basis to make players and coaches' lives easier. And it's like, those are things that you can find online, or you can DM and ask them. Like, if you're hosting a $20,000, $50,000 tournament, contact a previous GM and ask him like how, like, what are
Right.
like intricacies. Like, there are so many things. Like, honestly, even having just like fruit Tyler knows one of the things that I told the players in between every single game was bathroom if you need to, water you have to, and fruit if you're hungry. Like fruit in between games, in between meals. Like that's standard with every single pro team in NA, Europe, everywhere. Like
Right.
you have potassium, you have vitamins, you have water, like you have Advil if someone needs it. Like that shit is not hard to put together.
Right.
And it's like those things can like save people during
Well,
weekend long
and
tournaments.
that's the other thing is like we've talked about this too before, and Lucian, I know you probably can chime on this too. Like, guys, if you're going to host an online qualifier and you're going to determine who your top 4 teams are, and you're going to say, yo, we're going to host a LAN in some state that's not the state you're in, you have to provide something. Giving me a hotel room for one night when I've got to be there for 2 is not good enough. Like, I know it sounds really like high end, but like, man, give me half my flights, give me my hotel rooms for 2, give me something so that I feel like a top 4 team. Because when you host a qualifier and then you turn around and go, oh wait, to come to this event for $5,000, you got to pay for your flights and your hotel. Suddenly I don't feel like a top 4 team, and I start to wonder why the fuck I even participated in the first place. Because now this event's not about me, it's about you. And it's like, oh, how many teams can we get to come out here on their own dime? Because it's like, now we spent all this time in your qualifier. Now we got to risk our own branding money to go to your event that you're supposed to be basically hyping us up at. And there's no risk, or there is a risk on investment that we may not get that back. Like, that's fucking ridiculous. Like, again, so Return, I think it's a great question. Like, the perfect event, and again, I think Chrono said it best, Lucian said it best, and Zeus said it best. Good prize pool. Don't tell me come out to fucking, Arkansas for $2,000. It ain't happening. Good competition. Let me know when you're going to invite the actual teams that I think's good. Don't invite all the collegiate teams around you, all right? Don't invite your fucking local LAN center friends. Like, those are not good competition for me, okay? The good production and graphics. Lucian saw this. I mean, we saw this firsthand with fucking Player One. They had some pretty good graphics. Cringy at times, but it was pretty good, right? Overall. So good graphics is a good thing. And also remember, like, guys, we're on a damn 3-minute delay. To tell me and tell my players, like, yo, don't react if something happens, that's ridiculous. Like, put me in another room, right?
Yeah.
And then casters. Holy shit. Hey, between the two of you, how many times have you guys muted a stream because you can't stand the casters?
Every single time.
Yeah, what are you
The
talking
last
about?
time I listened to a caster was Ender and Amateur.
No, the only person I actually listen to is Return.
Right. And that's just it. Like,
It's like the only person I can actually tolerate. Honestly, I just put on music or I just mute it and talk to people on Discord.
right. And that's the thing, right? Like, pick some casters that know what they're talking about, right? Like, I want some puns. Like, I'm cool, but don't pick the cringy guy that barely knows what the summoner spells are, right? Like, if he's got to read it off a sheet, he ain't worth having. And don't pick somebody because he's local and cheap. Pick somebody that's going to bring content. And don't worry, Arrow, we're going to get to your donation, buddy. I think something else that was brought up is the random seating point, right? Like, holy shit, Zoo. I mean, and Lucian, like, how many events have we been to where it's like, Polar Ace and SN are going to play each other in the first round? Like, excuse me? We're going to what?
Yeah, we played Wind and Rain, first round DreamHack. Like,
Yep.
we played them first round, and then like they sent us to losers in 3 games. Like, it was just like, it was like, okay, you're taking the 2 strongest teams, like coming out of like the first round of play or whatever, like the first round robin. It was like you got Wind and Rain was like first, and then I think we were second in our group because we dropped the game to Daruk and Wildcard.
Right,
Yep.
right.
But that was just because I into draft. But fucking what was it like? It was like, okay, these are obviously like 2 of the strongest teams, and it's like, let's put them together first round in the tournament. We go 3 long games. That was like,
Holy
Oh,
shit.
yeah.
it was
One
like
where
pretty intensive.
3
like,
inhibitors were down,
yeah,
and Zoo's
and we
like,
needed
what
to
the
play-
fuck?
Yeah, like we
Oh,
had
yeah.
like 3 inhibs down. Like that series went 3 long games, and it's like, okay, this is very clearly the strongest matchup, or potentially the strongest matchup. And it's like we're doing it first round, and then not only that, but after we lose, it's like I had a couple guys who like were gonna mentally break down, and it's
Right.
like we have to play another game in 7 minutes,
Right. And the
by the way.
gauntlet. Right.
and it's like, all right, cool, and then it was so whack. Like it was just
Oh,
it was
yeah.
so whack, and then it was like legitimately then we have to come in and not play a best of 5 but a best of 3.
Right, with one
And
win
it's
up.
like then we
Right.
start a game down, but like we played an extra game to avoid coming in as losers. Like
Mhm.
that bracket was so weird. Like
And
yeah, I don't know.
the finals was best of 3, but because we knocked you out, it turned into a
Which
best of 2 where we got a 1-game advantage.
Which
yeah,
ma- which
but that's
makes
the
sense,
thing. Like
right?
I don't understand. Well, no, it doesn't make sense
Not in a best
because
of 3.
well, no, so it like doesn't make sense because what people were saying, because I was pretty pissed about it, because like I think we legitimately could have won the series, but like I was pretty pissed about it because people were saying it's like, well, when you come from losers bracket, like you usually start down a game, and it's like, well, hey, thanks. Like I've never been to a fucking tournament before. Of
Yeah.
course I know that, but like we played an extra match to get into winners finals.
Right.
Like we played against Zenith to get there, like out of losers. Like we played them, the
Mhm.
winners. Like they lost winners bracket to you guys, and
Yep.
then we had to play them. And it's like, if we beat the last team that we beat before them was it was Tony, it was Hard,
It was the
Short
throw
you,
together team.
The throw
yeah,
together,
Short
yeah.
You and Trance, and yeah, it was them. And if we beat them and went to play you guys, then we should be 1 game down.
Mhm.
That makes perfect sense because we won the losers finals.
Right.
The losers finals was us versus like Tony and friends, but like we played winners, like the loser of winners finals, to get even ground with you guys. And then not only were we not given a best of 5, we were given a best of 3, and then on top of that we're not given the equal like status either.
Right.
Right.
Dude, that shit
I
was
think
so
I think
broken.
one thing, if you're gonna do best of 3 like that, like don't do the we start up a game. Give us find a way to give us more time in that event and do the bracket reset system that they do for a fighting game.
For
if you're
sure.
gonna do the
Yeah,
best of
and
3,
that's what I was gonna
where it's
say.
like if they beat us in the best 2 out of 3, then just rerun the bracket. And like because of that, we had the extra game to and pick Tom Kench top straight into the fucking Camille, which led to a big team argument, by the way, that I had to diffuse. But
Well, and
like
then we had to have that argument day one, like
That was so
me,
stupid, by the way.
Sammy, Wildcard,
was
and
awful.
like minus the guy from fucking Wind and Rain. No offense to you, Lucien, but it's like day one, we're like, bro, it's already 11 p.m. and you want us to play losers round 1 right now? Are you insane?
And it was our hardest match too.
Right, and it's like, bro, we have to prep
Oh
for
my
this.
God,
We're not gonna.
so
and we
awful.
bitched and we
Oh, yeah.
bitched, and one team's like, oh, we should just play it, cause it's like, yeah, of course you just want to play it. You can't go anywhere but to losers bracket. And finally, they're like, all right, you got to be here at 7 a.m. And then we didn't even start till like 10. It's like
that was our
if-
fault. We woke up late.
Well,
Thank you
that's
for
the
giving
thing.
us that time.
Well, and that's the thing.
well,
It's like,
so did half our players showed
Well,
up
and it's
late
like-
too,
it's
'cause
like-
our manager was a bit mental.
if you're gonna do this, please, for the love of God, just make the time crunch. Now, for a question that was donated, sorry, Arrow, it took a little bit. Arrow asked, do you think, between the two of you, well, 3 of us, do you think that amateur event organizers should do invite-only events with super teams in the amateur scene, or should they be open qualifier teams?
Open qualifier.
You think?
Open qualifier.
I'm
Open
fairly sure this player 1 tournament is invite only.
It is. Top
It's
6.
invite only for first of all 6 teams. Why are you doing 6?
Well, it's okay.
stupid.
For their defense, it's becoming 8, but to start, it's 6. It's
Well,
to start
6 is-
just
6.
start it with 8.
I don't know, it's just dumb.
I don't know. It's weird.
Sorry.
But a big detriment to for us to keeping Polar Ace Blue was we don't even get to compete in that first set of tournament, and we want to we
Yeah.
want to be competing in every tournament because we were certain whatever teams that Clarity, Azio, and any of the guys that were going that weren't top 2, we could beat with that roster. But now we're but we're not even going to make it in. We won't know if the players will still want to stay around because some of our players were just good and had other options that they might want to go to. It's not worth their time at that point.
Well, and
and
the thing is with the invite only, right? To Arrow's point, it's
Yeah.
like suddenly players that are free agents are looking for teams. Now it's like, wait, I don't want to be on the new brands. I don't want to be in a brand that's not competing in Player 1. I don't want to be on a brand that's not going to LAN ETS. If your brand isn't in an event on these invite only, people are like, no, fuck you.
Avoiding it.
Yeah, fuck your team. Hey, I can't tell you how many players have come to a tryout and the first thing they ask me is, are you in Player 1? And I say, yes. And it's like, okay, check in that box. Are you guys going to LAN ETS? Yeah, we plan to. Okay, check in that box. Oh, we also heard about an event in Wichita. Are you guys going to that? Yeah. Okay. So you pretty much checked off all the things that I want to go to. So I'll go ahead and try out. But if at any point you say no to those things, it's like, well, if your team's not going, there's this other team that is going, and they may not be as good as you, but I want to go on all 3 of these trips. Like, that's the problem with invite only. You kill the free agency. Like, people are going to start to fight to be on 8 teams, on the 8 teams that were invited, rather than like the new teams. Like, and again, I'm saying this because I don't know. I mean, I do know who was invited, but I don't know who the 8th team is. So, like, for teams like, Regal Reserve or any of those other new teams that are up and coming, like, we don't know if they're in the events. So it's like when they host tryouts, it's like, why do I want to be on your team? Like, are you are you going? Are you in these events? Oh, okay, no, okay. So for now, I'm gonna put you on a back burner until I don't make one of these other teams. For now, I'm gonna focus on trying to get into the big boys, the big 8. Until then,
Right.
And it's like everybody said, like, we don't know what's gonna happen, and I think Arrow, to your question, and to like both these boys said, it should always be open qualifiers. For one, it's way more entertaining to be open qualifiers, right? Like an upset like Alienware had with Polar Ace and Azio and Supernova, that shit's cool to watch. Like, we can get a storyline out of that. Like, I mean, fuck it. Open qualifiers is the way to go, man. Like, I want to see some team of 5 randoms beat, an established brand.
What's the harm in that?
Yeah, what is the harm in that?
What is the harm? Like, if these top 4 teams that deserve to go, that would have got invited, like, just have to play through an open qualifier, okay, then we can actually see if they're a top 4 team, or if there's a better team.
Surely, if you're a top 2 team or top 4 team, you should have no problem getting through open qualifiers.
Right.
But it's honestly like, I don't know, dude. It's such bullshit. Like, the whole like invite only thing. It's like, again, like, invite only is like similar to power rankings, where it's like you're creating a tier list for something that has no reason to have a tier list. Like, there's no reason for it to be invite only. It's like, congratulations, this group of 5 players is playing, like, or these 6 groups of 5 players are playing the best at this given point in time. Cool, then just bring them. Like, why does it have to be invite only? Like, how many times have you seen top challenger players just completely shit the bed at a tournament?
TCS.
Like, everything. Dude, honestly, like, it's amateur. Like, everybody shits the bed randomly. Like, no team is like top tier North American LCS teams can't even play well consistently. You really think that, like, some GM in fucking bumblefuck Mississippi with, like, all of his 5 college students that are playing ragtag amateur are actually going to play consistently for 6 months at a time?
Yeah.
Like, no, what the fuck? Like, they're going to show up one day and they're going to be cool, and it's like, there are some like, dude, look at some players. It's like, there are some players where it's like, they're actually fucking fantastic, like 80-90% of the time, and those players still look boosted 10% of their games. Like, straight boosted. There are players that will, like, absolutely smash high challenger players in lane, and then it's like, you come in, you scrim versus me, and I beat you. I'm D4. Like,
right, yeah.
Get
I
the
mean,
fuck
and
out
we
here,
saw
dude.
that.
Like,
We
there's
saw that
no
a
such
lot.
thing as consistency in amateur. So it's like, you just let everyone play.
Well, and then in Zoo, and maybe
like-
Lucien remembers too, right? Like, there was that time period where, like, there was that meme going around about Mark Boots. Like, shout out to him not playing anymore, but he was consistently beating challenger mid laners in, like, scrims and events, and people were like, yo, this is what amateurs made of, right? Like, these upsets. Like, the best stories are underdog stories. So, like, if you're an event organizer, have open qualifiers, bro. Like, that, I think the reason that they don't, and to Arrow's point, is like, it's an extra day or 2 days that we have to have. It's not on our schedule. And again, it goes back to the point that Lucien made, like, make some goddamn time for this. If you're not going to level out the time for it, don't run an event. We know as an org how long it's going to take. We bring on and we hire staff and we bring on players because we know that that there could be a qualifier, that there could be, anything else that's important. We know that it's going to happen. And shout out to young Pookie there for the raid. My bad, bro. Like, Nightbot actually does not care.
Crazy.
Yeah, he doesn't like caps. I'm sorry. We're going to work on that later. But thank you for the raid and welcome everybody. But to that point, open qualifiers. Who does it hurt? I've never seen a team bitch about open qualifiers. The only thing I would say about open qualifiers, and Lucien and Zoo can say this as well, is that, like, you need to have seeding. If there are teams with achievements, give them the spot they deserve. Do not put Polar Ace and Supernova against each other in round 1 just because you think it's going to bring the most viewers that Friday night that you start the tournament. I don't give a fuck about your viewership. I give a fuck about the love of competition. Okay? Find the bottom tier team, put them against Polar Ace, because that is how tournaments work. Lucien, what do you think about that, man? Like, tell me about the seeding. I mean, that shit's been fucked up since like the first event.
I mean, don't waste my time with bad seeding.
Right.
Like, for the most part, like, I don't want to be preparing for the number 1 team I'm going to play against the first round. And sometimes that happens accidentally. Like, with the UPL, we were playing against GGA, who we thought was, like, our best competition in the second round that first time. Like, or we played them in the semifinals, right? So, like, that just happens because of how the tournament first started out, and I can't put a blame on them for that. But if we're going into it and you're like, let's do Supernova and Polar Ace, like, that's pointless. And on the point of open qualifiers and invite only gives way too much leverage to teams. Because then they're like, hey, these players we promised we were going to stick with? Hey, you're off the team. Because these 4 challenger guys said that they'd play for us for that tournament because we're in that tournament, and now we've got a new roster.
Right.
And, like, it's so scummy in that way. And it's like, all right, first of all, like, the whole loyalty to players, sometimes you're too loyal to them. But, like, if you promise you're going to a tournament with them, don't just be like, oh, we're going to change it because fuck it. We just feel like it. And it's like, all right, there they go. It's nice knowing them. And then you get a whole situation out of it.
Right.
It's like, it's ridiculous.
Isn't it like fantastic? Like when there's just innate like player bias, team bias, and then it's just like nothing ever pans out the way you think it will. It's like almost
and it's like
almost if he just ran it as like let everyone play.
Well, and it's cool. It's like
everything.
It's like, look, I appreciate UPL, DSG, Player One. The guys that have had the events that they've learned from. Like, I appreciate that you guys show that little bit of favoritism towards the teams that you've worked with and have worked with you in the past, like SN, Polar Ace, Azia. Like, I appreciate you guys making accommodations so that our teams can excel. But for the love of God, don't put us in a position where we got to fight each other round 1 just because you want a viewership. I would rather you have 10 viewers in a night because it's Supernova or Polar Ace shitting on some bottom tier team than I would have to like worry about like my first week in your event having to play against what I consider like our rivals or vice versa. Like, it just doesn't make sense. And history has shown if you run tournaments a specific way, they need to be ran clear and concise. And now, thanks to, Upsurge or whoever else I have to thank, like, there's Esportspedia now that show teams' achievements. There's plenty of events that we've all been to that you guys can track. Like, get some staff that can build, like Return said, those storylines and seed us properly. Now, in all fairness, if Lucien gets an all-new roster, he should probably be seeded lower. Like, you can't seed based off the last roster. But if it's a minor change and he just replaces an AD carry or a mid laner, you can't automatically seed that man at 5th. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I mean,
that's the other thing about it too. Yeah. Go ahead,
bro. I think one other thing, in terms of the whole, I don't know how to put it. As you go, I'll think about how I want to put this.
Well, yeah, you're a sports guy, right?
Yeah.
You're a basketball player, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, when you watch NCAA shit, like I love college basketball. College basketball, college football are my 2 favorite sports. And I'm a Villanova guy through and through, so it's like I've kind of seen both sides of the coin. Villanova's football team is shit, but their basketball team is god tier. So it's like, what are some of the most entertaining? What are some of the most entertaining games in college sports? It's the first week when Alabama goes against the fucking 124th ranked D1 college,
and they go like 80 and
up,
right?
You get to watch them put up 70 points.
Yeah,
like. And you get to watch Nick Saban be a fucking psychopath and like play as starters all 60 minutes and like run up the points and put up 70, 80 points against these like poor children at this D1 school. And it's like, those games are hilarious. And those games are also incredibly entertaining to watch. And it's like, I would love to see like either of the Polar Ace teams go against just a bunch of random diamond kids. Like, put them in off-roll for Christ's sakes. Like, dude, like, do anything. Just like, you can make entertainment except like, you can like create quality entertainment like without it being like the 2 best teams, because frankly like the 2 best teams in amateur aren't quite good to begin with. So it's like, or like comparatively to like whole NA, like for amateur they're quite good, and like I understand that. I don't want to take away anyone's like success here, but it's just like make it entertaining in other ways, man. Like
Yeah.
And like,
I fucking love like the way that they do those things, man. Like
what's
it's
more
great.
exciting than watching some D5 kids beat like, or not even beat, but take a game in a best of 3 versus Polaris, like, or SN,
Right.
like that shit's like as funny as it's gonna be. Like, yeah, it's gonna be frustrating. Like, you're gonna go back to your team and be like, guys, what the fuck? But at the same time, like, if you put them all on their off-roll champions or whatever else, like that, it can be good fun in it. Like, again, you have to approach it correctly because, like Zeus said, as in good fun as it is, you want to keep the competitive spirit. As a brand, if you get put against a bottom tier team, you can't go into that with the expectation like we should treat these kids differently. Like, we shouldn't play our best. Like, you got to give teams the respect that they deserve in a competitive format, regardless of where they sit in rank. Because I know something that when SN was coming up, something that we hated the most is how differently like we would get treated because we had, a couple plat players and we were playing against all challenger. Like, if you're all challenger, I want you to give my team the fucking work, and vice versa. If you're all diamond, expect to get the fucking work. Because that's only going to make you better, and it's something that you should seriously go back and watch the VOD and go, okay, how the fuck did we lose a turret at 9 minutes? Like, how did we let that happen? And I think that, like, as a tournament organizer, you need to make sure that somewhere, that these teams behave in the format that they do. But
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
Right.
I mean, like, dude, I had that problem, because I've been trying to play the game more and like scrim and stuff, and like I'm doing my own experiments for that, but like I had plenty of players who like I'm playing with and they're like my friends or something, or they know that I'm a coach, and it's like I make a bad call in the game and no one calls me out for it.
right.
And it's like
So
it got to a point where I started doing it on purpose to see, like, I would make a bad call and see like who said anything, and like no one said anything. I was like, guys, this was so stupid. Like, I inted hard here. Like, you guys can yell at me, like, like.
well,
come on.
that's the subject that I was gonna get to. And Lucien, I'm gonna let you start it off too. And this is probably gonna be one of our final subjects in this podcast. But like, is League of Legends or maybe amateur sports in general, are we becoming too soft as players, teams, and brands? Because
hold on. This is really good, and I really want to hear Lucian's thing.
Okay.
But to wrap up what Lucian said based on rankings, on seeded rankings, there is an opinion that I need to get in here. Like, ranking should not just be based on player skill; it should also be based on coach skill. And that's
Absolutely.
not something. That's not something that amateur is capable of handling yet. I don't blame them for that because amateur coaching is just absolute dog shit. But like, you're gonna get, like, people are getting good at what they're doing.
Right,
Like,
for sure.
people are getting quite good. Like, at like the top like 2 to 3 like coaches, like I've known Lucian for like years now. Like, we've kind of been in and out of work together for like 3 years, I think, almost. Like, there's like Daruk is somebody who like I respect a lot.
Shout out to
And
Daruk.
like he's like, and many times like I thought Daruk was like the only other person that like I could really bounce ideas off of at this level. But like, if hopefully we get to, or we can work towards a structure where like you have like with each team, I don't really know how like the details of upsurge and shit work, but like you go like rosters, so roster strength, and then you formally submit like a coach and an assistant coach, or like just one coach or something, and it's like you ask around, like talk with them, like do anything. If you've heard the reputation before, like you can comparatively use amateur success and like compare it to other people playing at that level too. But like, quite frankly, if Lucian and I were just like, want to work together, and it's like, yeah, sure, dude, and you want to just take a bunch of diamond players, and it's like, yeah, fuck it, let's go. Like, you want to beat up on all these teams, and it's like, yeah, definitely. So like, Lucian and I could take a bunch of D1 players and smack half these teams that have been existing for 6 months or a year.
For sure.
We could do it in 2 weeks. Like, we could do it in 2 weeks, and it's like we would probably be seeded as like the lowest team.
Yeah.
But like, we not saying we should be seeded high, but like he and I should get the respect to like at least bump up a couple seeds to make our tournament a bit more manageable.
And that'll create more. Like, that's something that, like Zeus said, and Lucien, you said too in this podcast, like, that's something this scene lacks is good staff, right? Like, any brand owner, Myra sitting in here, other Zenith, Sammy B, like, something that we all struggle, and it's okay. Like, we're not taking shots at anybody's current staff. Like, everyone's got some great staff that we appreciate, that we would hold the backs of, through in, throughout. But it has become significantly harder. Like, if I didn't have the help of Daruk, or if I didn't have the help of, Michael, Jay Ford, and Zoo from time to time and time again, like, it would be significantly harder to find staff that I could think is appropriate to fill the spot of an all-challenger team. Like, it is very hard to find amateur coaches that can fill that role. Like, there is a difference between a guy that can come in and say, oh, don't take the 70-30 trade. Don't pick this here because I saw it on LCS. That is not a coach. A coach is somebody that I, as an owner, if I listen to the script and go, holy shit, I didn't know that. Or if I can go around and I go, oh, actually, that's a good point. Like, using this seating, with staff in mind will help you understand that where your staff sits and what you should be looking for. And, should hopefully help staff, push themselves to be one of those. Like, if you want your team to succeed in seeding, you want to be a better coach. And I think Zoo's point and Lucian's point is good. Like, seed staff, seed your players, and do it that way. Now, Lucien, I'm gonna let you. Go ahead. Hit me with it.
So on the thing with coaching, just a side note to all the coaches out there. You mentioned, some coaches see this, some of them see that.
Right.
As a side note, message just the coaches, like specifically about one aspect of the game in draft. If I see you just copying a pro team, I instantly lose respect for you. Please, please, think for yourself. Like,
Right.
If I can just watch what just happened in the last LCS game and say, yep, that's what they're gonna do, and then you do it straight to a point. I've got a strategy. I'm gonna beat you.
Right.
Like, please, for the love of God, think for yourself.
And then-
Or it's like, fuck, if you're gonna copy it, like, at least know why you're copying it. Like,
Exactly.
Like, holy shit, dude. Like, know why things are good. Like, don't just know what's good, but know why it's good. Like,
Yep.
there are so many people that, like, actually don't know why, but they only know the what, and it's, like, absolutely nuts. Like,
Yep.
you need to know the why, and that's, like, I'm really glad you brought that up, because it was, like,
Oh yeah.
probably the three biggest things that you need to do to be a successful coach. Like, if you want to coach, work on these three things only. 1, learn how to control a room. 2, or like a Discord, whatever the room is.
Yeah.
Control a room, control a practice. Like, be the alpha male, like, be the leader.
Yeah.
Be the follower when it's necessary too, Like, sometimes you just need to follow and listen. But, like, control the room. 2, know the why and not just the what. And then 3, have the team, or like whatever you're coaching, a player, a team, a group, whatever, you take one step forward every day.
Yep.
No matter how small, how big, those are your 3 goals. Know the why, control a room, and one step forward every day. And that's, like, legitimately it. But, like, dude, like, nobody does that shit. Like,
No.
I don't understand. But, like,
Yep.
whatever.
So-
it's not worth.
So on that subject, you guys brought up a lot. To kind of end out this stream and finish out with a subject that I think is very important that we kind of brought up early on, and we hit on a lot of stuff here. Is our scene specifically, or is it gaming in general, with everything that's kind of gone on over the last year or so, is it becoming too soft? And now, for some people that have worked in different scenes, and again, Lucien, I don't know your full background, but like Zoo, who's been on a United and got to see Call of Duty in their own scrims, or like for me that
Yeah,
has
that shit was
seen
sick.
Call of Duty firsthand, like, are people too fucking soft? Because
Yes.
I've been to some events where, like, they're not League, and these kids literally, they take one map in a best of 5, and they stand up and it's like, you're fucking shit, go the fuck home, you don't fucking belong here, and nobody says anything. They sit the fuck back down, they get back in their game, and it keeps going. Now, could you imagine a world where literally a League team stood up and was like, yo, you are actually the worst fucking mid laner I've ever seen in my fucking life. Go somewhere. Like, the whole match would be paused. There'd be some fucking rulebook being pulled out. They'd be highlighting it like, yo, this is BM. Like, you said he couldn't say fuck. And he's saying it to me like, can we get a DQ here? Can we get a free win, please? And like,
I mean, High got fined, what, like $5,000 for giving the finger on camera?
yeah.
No,
yeah.
listen. Is it soft? It's
What?
soft because Riot's pushing it to be soft. Like, there are some rules in there where Riot's like, we want to have a clean game that's open to a lot of audiences and all of that. Like, that's what they're looking for. But, like, I'm so down for, trash talk, because I think that was when the amateur was taken more seriously. Because there's trash talk when you were, like, it wasn't like you were playing for the trophy, you're playing for the money or whatever. You're playing for pride. Because
Right.
that guy's being a dick, and you want to just absolutely smash it.
Right.
Like,
And that's the thing, right? Like we were one of my best examples that I've got right now outside of DreamHack, right, is like recently I was in Vegas, right? And Azio's sitting across from me, and I told Strumpus and Iconic, and I was like, guys, when you make something happen, hype each other up. Like, look at each other and be like, good fucking shit, Strumpus. Like, make the other team know that you're hype about what you're doing and get in their heads. And instead, it's like, yo, no lie, for like 40 minutes, it's a quiet room. Like, yo, we're just going to make these plays. And like, Ethan at the end steals Baron. And it took me as an owner to be like, good shit, Ethan. That's the way we fucking do it. Like, nobody gets hype in this scene. And like, what?
Just ask yourself, when's the last time
Right.
anyone on stage, like anyone on an LCS stage, when's the last time anyone stood up out of their chair?
oh, yeah.
Right.
The last
During
time was
the game.
when Lolo managed to survive in NA. In
Yeah,
the TL,
like-
in the TL thing. Like,
Yeah.
the
Like,
last
when's the
player
last time like anyone actually like went rampant? Like you look at Scump, dude. Like look at Scump when he was playing in pools or whatever for CWL this week.
Yeah.
Like he played E United for the spot in winners finals, and he just gets up and like, dude, they E United and Optic fucking scrimmed in house together in the same room against each other for a full week in Optic's offices. Like E United was in Optic's offices, and they would shit talk each other during scrims, face to face in the same office. Yet they're still homies outside the game. And then Scump beats E United 3-0. He comes off the map and he goes like this, and it's like that's the most passive thing I've seen in COD, when he went like this, like choke,
Yeah.
like you guys choke,
Right.
and
Right.
it's like, holy shit, like someone will legitimately get fined at Riot if they do that. Like
Right.
it's so whack.
But
Like,
that's the thing, like,
it's so
but
whack.
that's the thing,
dude.
right? Even like Zeus said, like, even guys, like, one thing as a player, if I can recommend, is like you need to watch CWL, Call of Duty World League. Like, yes, it's a different scene, it's a different mental there, but like something. And shout out to Hector and his Eavesdrop podcast, which if you haven't seen, you need to see on YouTube. It's so fucking good. But he talks about it, right? Like Nate Shot says, when he walked into League of Legends for the first time and his team lost in playoffs, and he went into that back room, like, they weren't even upset about their loss. Like, they kind of sat there and was like, it's another game. They were just better than us. It's whatever. We'll come back. And he's like, you know, he's telling a story of like how he remembers Call of Duty players going back to their hotel room, throwing their shit around, going like, we're the fucking better team. Like, those kids just fucking, like, they were just on something. They're trash. We're better. League players won't do that. Like, for me, it's like,
Well,
I feel like there's a lack of like
part of it
drive.
comes with the territory too. Like part of
guess,
it
yeah.
comes with the money. Like it's just like when I signed my contract with GSW, dude, my contract was 36 pages long. Like so much corporate shit that I had to read through, dude. And it's like so many things that you have to adhere to, but that's the price you pay for the money that you get,
For
like
sure.
in the scene.
Right.
Right.
And it's like it's
Like-
PG right now, like someone said. It's like literally rated G. Like is rated G. Does it have to be rated R? No. Like rated R is Gears and COD.
Yeah.
But like also
Oh, yeah.
those scenes don't like those scenes can also operate like that. Like
Well, and that's
League like can't really operate like that a lot of the times because of like their sponsors and shit like that.
just a
But-
little more passion, though.
right. Well, and that's the thing. That
PG-13, bro. Like
Well,
let's
and that's the
let's at
thing
least
is,
be
like,
like 16.
you don't want to
know?
throw. You don't want to like Lucien said before we started this podcast. Like, it's so hard to talk shit or be passionate or create banter because you do it one time at an event. You type it one time on Twitter. That shit gets screenshotted, saved, and it comes back to back to back. And like, and League is the most. And again, I love the scene that I'm a part of. But god damn, League is the most immature scene, man. They'll go as far as finding your Instagram and being like, bro, why was your hair this long when you were in high school? Like, why are you talking about my gameplay
yeah.
when you should be worrying about how you look on a Friday, bro? Like, it's not like the other scenes, whereas like Zeus said, like, Scump literally stood up during his finals match and literally for 5 minutes just screamed, your ass, your ass, your ass. But still was able to put his headset down, walk over, and shake hands with the other team. Like, hey, bro, at the end of the day, we're still... And they're going to go out, they're going to have beers, and it's not going to pop back up on Twitter, you know? He's not going to go through this man's Instagram and be like, yo, you talk shit about me in 2000. Where the fuck are you now? Like, that's the problem with League. People don't make it about the game. They make it about everything fucking else. And when brands and players in general, like, it's always... 90% of the time it's the players that start it. But when brands, players, and staff, they get off trying to find things about other people outside of the game, and they stop stop nitpicking little things like, the fact that you grew up in the ghetto or whatever else. Like, they stop looking for things outside of your gameplay. That's when we can start to have a better scene. Like Lucien said, like, we can start to have trash talk where we can talk about, like, Five Fire's got a small champion pool, or Julian's and Oriana one trick. Like, when we can go back to doing those things, that's when we can have some fun. But if I
mean, dude, I legitimately caught shit. I caught shit on Twitter. Like, I had to tweet, like, one day I will not get crucified for volunteering my fucking time in amateur or something like that.
Oh my god.
Like, that like popped off, and it's like I literally came in with one day. Like, Tyler DM'd me and was like, "Yo, I need someone to do pick ban like this week versus Zenith, and like we need help versus Zenith." And this was like what, like 3-4 months ago or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And it was like, we need help. And it's like, I'm just sitting in my apartment. I don't have any plans. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come in and help. And then like, I come in, do 2 or 3 days of scrims. I scout Zenith. I see that like it's Nile DMK only. And it's like, okay, so red side, we just opt into red side and we just counterpick. And like, I know exactly what to do against this team. We bend them over 3-0. And then the guy asked me, like, was it hard? And I was like, no. Like, it was incredibly easy. Like, the 3-0 was incredibly easy. It wasn't even a fight. But, like, people took that as me, like, shit-talking, like, people. It's like, because I say your team was bad in that set of 3 games, am I attacking your character as a person? Like,
that's how they take it. That's what it is nowadays.
It's absurd. Like, people are so incredibly personal about it. I've had, like some of my friends like bag on me for not having a job right now, and it's like, I think it's hilarious. Like, like,
Well,
it's like, oh, Zoo, like, he was shit in academy. It's like, yeah, I was.
Well,
like,
it's like, it's like
doesn't
between
mean I'm a bad person.
between your coach and getting smacked down by your friends. Like, we all have something. I mean, that's been used against us outside of just our team's gameplay. Like Lucien, I mean, included. Like, for me, right? Like, my team could be doing so goddamn well, right? And suddenly it doesn't become about my team. Suddenly it becomes like, oh, don't get sucked into the T-Combs ego hole, right? Like, T-Combs ego is the thing that matters here. Not the fact that his team's doing well or his team got 3-0'd by Polar Ace. No. It's the T-Combs ego. And it's like, why the fuck is this about me and not about them, right? Like, I'm cool with being the target of your flame, but for the love of God, like, can we focus on the gameplay? Like, Lucien, what do you think? Like, do people really like make this everything but league?
No, but who are the people that are doing it though? Like, just look at the people who flame.
Right.
The people who flame are the people who aren't at the top. It's because they don't put the work in, and they see the people who did, and then they start flaming you.
Men.
Or
it's
the
like,
people
okay.
at the top that don't have to do shit anymore.
Exactly. And it's like, all right, for the most part, I've been behind the scenes for 3 years. At the beginning of my career, I was a nobody, terrible analyst, and now I'm here. And I'm working with the top teams, and I'm winning tournaments. And I just went behind everyone instead of going on Twitter and being like, oh yeah, my team's the best. Like, I was still doing well at tournaments with those teams, but I wasn't talking mad shit and going at their character or any of that. I put my head down, focused on my work, and I'm going to keep doing that, and I'm going to keep getting better. And the people who want to come attack me or attack any of the other coaches or attack any of the other guys at the top just because they're at the top, then you're going to keep failing.
Right.
And I'm going to keep succeeding, and I'm going to be happy. And that's that. Like,
right. And
if you take everything so like, if a player takes something personally when I say, like, oh, you have a bad champion pool, or like when I said Azio was inconsistent, a lot of their players performed really inconsistently. If you take that personally, then you just realized a weak point and you don't want to improve on it.
Right.
That's
right.
your problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like, I had to cut Bob Jenkins from GGS in the spring. Like, we as an org made the decision to cut him for summer split. But like, Thomas is like absolutely one of my favorite people in amateur, and like I am so invested in his development that like I want nothing but success for him. And like, I live a couple minutes from Riot, so going to scouting grounds, and even though I wasn't coaching at scouting grounds, like being able to go and see my guys, and like, that's a player I had to let go for the business, right? But like, that hurt like a lot. Like, I almost cried after I let him go, and like, I almost cried at scouting grounds. I'm just so fucking proud of like what he accomplished. But you know, it's you gotta separate like the in-game stuff from the out-of-game stuff.
Right,
Like,
right.
I don't know. I have always been an advocate for mental health. So, um, I'm somebody, for anyone who doesn't know, I'm somebody who in my teenage years and even in my young adult years at 20 and 21 and so, kind of even at 22 a bit, I was going through some like substance abuse problems and mental health, depression, suicidal thoughts, stuff like that. Like my life was kind of spiraling out of control, and I used that experience to uplift players who are going through similar things. You
For
know, like
sure.
players who have. I've talked to players in house. There's a player who is now consistent LCS player who was incredibly depressed and was going to quit his career, and I talked him out of it. And you know, like there are plenty of things that you can do to like help players, but like as soon as that sort of stuff starts getting pulled into like
Right, yeah.
your conversation, like, dude, you can shit on me for having 3 professional wins with GGS as much as you want. I don't fucking care. But like the
At least you
second
made
you,
it.
yeah, like, I
Right.
mean, that's a whole different discussion.
Right, but
Like,
that's
y'all can blow me, but it's like,
right.
it's legit. Like, shit on me all you want for that. I don't care. But like, you come at me with like mental health stuff, or you come at me with like, you come at me for like anything about like my family or like my friends or anything like that, I will snap back very, very hard. And it's just
Mhm.
like people at this level like automatically go to that, and
Right.
it's really fucking scary actually.
Well,
It's
and
because they
that's
don't have another argument to make.
right,
Like
and that's
if
Exactly.
they see
right.
somebody else, they're like, I know I'm below you, but I'll attack things that you're probably weak about. And it's
I'm
like,
just scared for the. I'm 25. I can handle it. Like you're, I mean, you're like 20, but you seem to have a decent head on your shoulders. So it's like I'm
yeah,
scared for like the 18-year-olds
Right.
that
Yeah,
are
yeah.
impressionable.
the younger kids
Like
like
I'm scared for the kids that
well,
like it's
and
my job to like look after them.
well, and that's the thing. It's
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, it's like right, like the entire point here is like yes, we don't want the scene to be so soft, but we want people to focus that banter in the correct way. Like Lucian said, like the people that attack things that are personal, you know, in your personal life or things that you're trying to let go, like those are the people that they don't have a counter argument because their teams are not in a place where they can make an argument. If your team is bottom 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, and you want to come at another team and say they're shit, and then suddenly your argument doesn't work because you know your team's not that great, and then suddenly it's like, oh well, you know, whatever it may be. Like Zeus said, like we all have our past. Like if you come back and you're like, oh, do you remember when you know SN got catfished and you guys got fucking left out to dry? Remember that mistake? Like, bro, you're attacking something that's like former. Like
Yeah.
for me, I don't give a fuck. Like go for it. But like,
Yeah. Like
but
someone actually took a shot at me. I'll keep their name out of it for the sake of their safety. But someone actually took a shot at me at DMs because my dad has brain cancer, and like someone actually took a shot at my dad, and like
yeah, like that.
you're so
Why?
lucky you're not here in person. I would envy you.
Right, right, and
Like,
it's like, what? Why?
but yeah,
Why?
I don't
Like,
know.
keep the
It's insane.
banter on the game level, right?
Yeah.
But with that being said, and with us hitting that 2 hour and 10 minute mark, and probably being, you know, one of the best podcasts that I've ever had as far as the amateur scene goes, there's a lot of facts in here, and again, I encourage all of you guys that have friends that are looking for teams, looking for brands to play for, looking for staff or whatever else. Like this is a podcast you want to share with them because this is those experiences within the scene from people that have lived it that, you know, can really help them move forward. And we want people to move forward. Like I know that, you know, when it comes to Twitter, from Lucien and Zoo, like they can tell you like, yeah, there's going to be a lot of things said about brands, right? There's going to be a lot of things said about people. There's going to be past and things that aren't always going to line up with what you may want, but always give a brand a chance to show you that they care about your development. Give a brand that even if you don't think is good, give them the opportunity to guide you to your success. And at the end of the day, like Zeus said, put what is important first and don't put so much of what everybody else thinks is important first. With that, Lucien, what do you have left to say for the crowd? And then Zoo will end out with you, and then we'll kind of end this out. So Lucien, give me your final remarks here.
Well, thank you for the people who came to watch. I mean, hopefully this was helpful to some of you. Hopefully you got something important out of it, and some of the messages that we were trying to get reached you. It was great to be on. Hopefully it can be on again in the future. But yeah, that's about it for me.
Cool. And Zoo, what do you got left for the crowd before we end out here?
I guess just like advice to everybody. Just keep going. you know, you're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some, but just fucking keep going, dude. Like, I don't know. You can experience your highs and you can experience your lows, but life is a culmination of both of those and not just one or the other. It's not just success or failure. So, like, uh, I guess the last thing I'll say is just if you're a player, you'll be surprised how far you get if you only if the only thing you're concerned about is your play or how you function on a team. Like how good of a teammate you are and how good of a player you are. That's your job. And same thing with being a coach. Like, stop talking to other people. Stop putting players on your resume. Like, I've been guilty
Yeah,
of that in the
God
past.
bless. Yeah.
I've been guilty of that in the past, but just like work on doing your own shit, and like you'll be surprised how far you get. Like, it's, I was Tyler's assistant academy coach that wasn't even running practices in November of 2015, and then May of 2016 I moved in with Tempo. It's just like literally fucking anything is possible if you put your mind to it, and you just need to be ready to sacrifice, be ready to get out of your comfort zone, and above all, like above everything else, my two fucking golden rules for like everybody: be confident in yourself, because if you're not confident in yourself, nobody else can be confident in you. And two, it is not you're not a pussy, you're not a bitch, you're not nothing for asking for help.
Right. Yeah.
Ask for help. Ask in game, out of game, anything. Like, just ask for help. Know when you're an adult if you ask for help. You're a child if you don't.
Right.
And like, ask for help and be confident in yourself. Put your fucking nose down to the brown zone and see how far you get.
Right. And
Just
if
go
you're
for it.
if you're in a good spot, don't quit on the people you care about just because you're in a slump. If you're in a team,
and
stick with
Don't
it.
burn bridges.
Yeah. Don't burn bridges. Right.
any bridges.
Right.
None.
Yeah.
Zero. Don't.
And
It's bad.
with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate the views tonight. We've had more followers than ever. We've had more questions asked than ever, and we've had a lot of people that really enjoyed it. Lucien, Zoo, thank you guys very much for tonight. Thank you for tuning in and helping me kind of lead the discussion. Hopefully, you guys share this again with your former players, current players, your brands, your teams, your academy friends, whoever you want to share it with that may have some questions about what amateur's all about. Hopefully, we can shine some light on this. But until next podcast, that is it from me, T Combs, on the Mute All podcast. And until next week, we'll see you guys later. Have a great night, and yeah, we'll see you soon.